I guess you would want to go ahead and open it, and then we'll do it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay. It looks like we have everybody here. Good morning. Let me get my video on. There we are. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is November 18th, 2021, and welcome to day 2 of the Board of Registered Nursing board meeting. I am Dolores Trujillo. I am an RN appointed by Governor Newsom in the direct care role, and I am also the current president of the Board of Registered Nursing. Vice President Mary Fagan will not be able to join us today. She is excused. Elizabeth Woods.
Elizabeth Woods. I was appointed by Governor Brown in the advanced practice role, and I chair the Nursing Practice Committee.
Thank you. Imelda.
Good morning, everyone. Imelda Ceja-Betkowitz, public member appointed by Governor Jerry Brown. Welcome.
Thank you. Susan Naranjo.
Everyone, Susan Naranjo, public member appointed by Speaker Rendon.
And Jovita Dominguez.
Good morning. My name is Jovita Dominguez, and I was appointed by Governor Newsom, and I chair the ELC.
Thank you. And our board counsel, Reza Pejuhesh. Did I correct?
Got it. Reza Pejuhesh, BRN Legal Counsel.
And our executive officer, Loretta Melby.
We are Lori, and I am the board's executive officer appointed by the board.
Thank you. So with roll call, we've established a quorum. We will move on to, I believe, item 9.3.2.
We'll actually have Mark, or board moderator, give a quick general introduction to start the day in case people were not on yesterday. We'll join separately today.
And we can open for public comment, correct?
No, we will not have to open to public comment, but we will do this, and then public comment will follow the first agenda item.
Okay, great.
This is the BRN moderator. I will be moderating the meeting. To facilitate public comment, we will be utilizing the WebEx question and answer feature. When the board reaches a point in the agenda at which public comment is appropriate, the question and answer feature will be turned on, and members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by inserting the phrase, "I would like to make a comment," in the question box, which is typically in the lower right of your screen. I will then call on the individual and unmute their microphone. The individual will have 2 minutes to make their comments. I will not give a warning as your time approaches. I will mute your microphone and will announce that your time has exceeded the time allotted. I will then move on to the next member of the public who has a comment. Please note that the question and answer feature is being used only as a means for members of the public to represent that they would like to make a verbal comment. This is not a means to ask questions of the moderator or members of the board. Such inquiries submitted using this feature will not be answered. When asking a question, please make sure the question is directed at the host, me, in the dropdown. If any attendees utilize a profane name, they will not be called upon to prevent members of the public from being subject to profane language. While you are free to express criticism or negative views, for the sake of the members of the public participating on the call, please do not use profane language when making public comments to the board. I will provide a brief reminder of this approach at the start of each public comment item. Finally, when board members or senior staff are not speaking, I would like to remind them to mute their microphone. If I detect background noise during the meeting as a result of unmuted microphones, I will interject with a brief friendly reminder. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Moving on to item 9.3, Jovita.
Good morning. I believe we left off at 9.3.2, and Dr. Marianne McCarthy can lead us to that.
Morning, everyone. Marianne McCarthy, Nursing Education Consultant, Liaison to the Education and Licensing Committee. Agenda item 9.3.2, discussion and possible action regarding acceptance of changes to an approved program. This is a major curriculum revision for American Career College Associate Degree Nursing Program. They are adding an additional location. American Career College is requesting a secondary campus in Ontario, California. This is in the Los Angeles area. Enrollment request is for 25 students, 5 times a year, for 125 students annually. NEC data research for the LA region suggests inflows of RNs to the area will exceed outflows by greater than 2,000 nurses. The NEC, Mary Jane Rosenblatt, and the program director, Julie France, are available for questions. Mark, if you could elevate those two.
Marianne, you said the inflow will exceed the outflow by how many? I'm sorry.
2,000.
2,000. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jane, I really appreciate your time this morning. What I would like to just mention 2 things prior to answering any questions. At the end of the day yesterday was a public comment by an individual who expressed his support, and it was actually for American Career College that we're looking at right now. This is a gentleman who mentioned becoming an RN after becoming an LVN at American Career College and how strongly he felt about their program and would appreciate the ability to drive only to Ontario as opposed to Los Angeles. Pardon me. If I could also call the board members' attention that there was an updated executive summary that was submitted. They prepared this dated October 2nd, and it included some information that would be helpful to make a decision that reflects some resources other than what the NECs are able to use. It was prepared by both Julie France and Timothy Lee, fairly concise with a number of links that you may find helpful. If I could, Julie France, if you had anything to add.
Thank you very much. Good morning. We'd like to thank the BRN board for the discussion and possible action and acceptance of our application today. We would also like to thank Ms. Rosenblatt for all of her help and support during this process. It has been a pleasure working with her. We are very excited to be able to expand our program to the Inland Empire. Over the last 3 years, our program has demonstrated outstanding retention, placement, and NCLEX results. Our program has had a greater than 90% first-time NCLEX pass rate over each of the last 3 BRN years. Our student satisfaction and applicant pool has increased as well in each of the last 3 years. The Inland Empire has a shortage of RN graduates to serve its growing and aging population. A research report published by the University of California, San Francisco Health Workforce Research Center in August of 2021 states there is currently a deficit of 14% or 40,500 RNs in California, and a shortage will persist at least through 2026. In fact, this report shows that California does not even reach the 20th percentile nationwide of full-time equivalent RNs per 100,000 in population until 2031. What these numbers are not showing is the growing impact of nurses leaving our state to take jobs as traveling nurses, further exacerbating the strain on our healthcare systems. This report emphasizes the impact of COVID-19 has had on the California nursing shortage. Our program in the Inland Empire will help mitigate this shortage in a community that desperately needs access to quality health care. The 2020 Oshpod Registered Nurse Shortage Area Report listed and calculated the severity of the shortage in 72 census tracts in California. 5 of the 6 census tracts in the Inland Empire have a medium or high severity of RN shortage. In the neighboring census tracts, 4 of 5 report medium or high severity of shortage. There are no census tracts in or neighboring the Inland Empire that have no shortage of RNs. Our request to establish an associate degree in nursing program in Ontario will improve access to the quality health care in the Inland Empire. The Inland Empire consists of both Riverside and San Bernardino counties. Each of these counties has 12 areas that are designated as medically underserved areas. Our Ontario campus is diverse, with 44% of the students being Latino, 21% being white, 15% Asian Filipino, 10% African American, and 8% biracial. Most of our students speak a language other than English, which is critical in improving the quality of care in the area. Historically, nearly half of the graduates from American Career College, Los Angeles, work in hospitals within 10 miles of the campus. Furthermore, this program will provide meaningful access to high-paying careers in an economically underserved area. The median income in San Bernardino and Riverside counties is $35,000. According to Indeed.com, the annual compensation for RNs in the Inland Empire is approximately $84,000, more than double the median income for the region. ACC has secured more than enough clinical commitments to support the program without any need of additional waivers. In preparation for this meeting, I contacted last week all of those who gave us commitments to clinical rotations to make sure nothing has changed. And every single one fully supported our request for clinical rotations without any clinical displacement. They expressed their need for RNs and new grads as their hospitals are severely understaffed. On Monday, we submitted to our NEC additional letters of support from several hospital CNOs, including the regional CNO from Prime Hospitals that covers 17 hospitals in Southern California and Nevada, who also talks about an adequate shortage of RNs in the area. Along with those letters of support, we submitted a joint letter signed by 3 California State Assembly members and 2 California State Senators. Assembly Member Rodriguez, Assembly Member Ramos, Assembly Member Chen, and Senator Leyva and Senator Ochoa Bo. Again, we thank this board for reviewing our application. In closing, we want to emphasize that our student outcomes have been incredible. We have adequate clinical support without any displacement for this program. We have immense community support from students, hospital leaders, and our state legislators. Most importantly, this program serves a dual purpose in an underserved area. It gives access to a nursing career to students that would otherwise be shut out of, and it improves the quality of care to a community that desperately needs it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Comments?
I have a question about the cost of the program.
Betty, on the agenda item summary that is in your packet for the program, on every AIS is a list of the cost of the program.
The total cost of the program, which includes the lab sciences general eds as well, for total curriculum is $74,225.
That also includes a laptop and ATI and licensing, the live scan, all of that. It's a total inclusive price. And gen eds.
What is the percentage of your students who will have to apply for aid?
Almost all of the students apply for aid.
And how many get it?
All are eligible.
All are eligible to apply, but what is the percentage of your program where students are have to get aid?
This is Timothy Lee, the Chief Operating Officer for ACC. I can help with that question.
Thank you.
Eligibility for aid is determined by household income. Almost every single student in American Career College is eligible for some type of grants and definitely federal student loans. We also have in-house scholarships available for students. Each student is different, though. That's based on household income, and that's all federally dictated.
Thank you.
And again, to point out also, Ontario serves an economically underserved area. So most of our students are eligible for aid.
Thank you.
Hi, this is Imelda Ceja Butgutz. Thank you. Thank you. And I just, I'm happy to see the services, your school going out to Ontario to serve the Inland Empire. I know yesterday there was some kind of comment that, you know, we have all these schools in the LA area. I know for a fact that LA area, Ontario, San Bernardino, there's a big difference, a huge difference. So even though we do have a lot of schools in the LA area, I think we lack in the outlying areas. And I think this is a good opportunity. I think that, you know, with the way things are going, we are losing a lot of nurses. We need to invest in nurses. I do think that the program's a little costly, but I like the idea that you are providing resources and financial assistance for those who cannot afford it. I think we need to do this. Again, we're losing a lot of nurses. A lot of them are leaving the state. So that's just my comment. Thank you so much.
This is Jovita. I do want to interject that your program is not as expensive as others, which is over 100,000. So I personally feel 74,000 is a lot, but I totally understand everything's very expensive, and just keeping the staff and the nurses that educate the students. But I'm happy to see that it's definitely under 100,000.
Jovita, thank you for that comment. And it actually gives, you know, more additional access to students. Our program is an associate degree program. It's cheaper and it allows students to get out there within 20 months. Even without any general education courses coming in, they're able to start and complete our program in 20 months. And as Dr. France talked about, not only are NCLEX pass rates in the 90th percentile for the last 3 years, our retention rates are in the mid-90s since the inception of the program. So there, we provide a lot of resources, a lot of support for our students. So the opportunity, what we call the success factors, about 9 out of 10 students who start our program end up graduating and becoming RNs. And as we talk about the LA campus, 50% of the graduates work within 10 miles of the campus. So not only are we recruiting students from our community, but they're staying and working in the community. Being born and raised in the Inland Empire, this is a program that's definitely needed. Not just for the improvement of healthcare, but access to quality careers in an area that doesn't have a lot of opportunity for professional growth.
This is Lori. I want to interject really quick and just draw the board's attention to a couple of data points that I would like you to take into consideration when you're looking at these program approvals. One thing, they did point out that they would be serving Riverside, and I want to let you guys know that we do have schools that are already approved in Riverside. We have Riverside City College. We have California Baptist University in Riverside. They have a BSN and an entry-level master's as well. And then in May of this year, on the report that you'll see, in May of this year, the board approved a program, new campus for Stanbridge. Stanbridge, at that approval that the board gave for Riverside, was 160 students annually. That is a BSN program. That'll be 4 years. At full capacity, Stanbridge will be taking in and supporting 640 students at full capacity. Additionally, yesterday, the board approved Arizona as a new program. That too is a BSN program. The board approved 120 students annually. That is a 4-year program. That'll be 480 students. So as of just this year, our board has approved a new campus location and a new program, one going into Ontario, one going into Riverside, that will have 1,120 new nursing students into this area. That in addition to the colleges and universities that are already approved in that area. So I'd like you to take that into consideration when you're making these motions so that we can have a great understanding of what the impact will be of adding a new campus of, and I can't remember what the ask is for enrollments, refer back to the Actually, if you have that off the top of your head, Heather, what is the enrollment annually for the ADN program?
It's 5 times a year.
So it's
Ms. Melby,
125 a year for 2 years. That'll be an additional 250 students when that program is at full capacity.
Ms. Melby,
And so,
Ms. Melby, if I can correct the math, even though it's a 250 students full capacity, it's still only 125 graduates per year at 100% retention rate. And as you pointed out, all the other
yes,
programs approved were bachelor's programs. Those are 3 or 4 year programs. Our program serves a different market. Our program serves a lower socioeconomic market that can't afford a 3 or 4 year bachelor's program over $100,000. And again, you pointed out Stanbridge. Stanbridge is in Riverside County. San Bernardino County and Riverside County are huge. San Bernardino County is actually the largest geographic county in the nation. It stretches east all the way to the Arizona and Nevada borders. So yes, there have been programs approved, but there's still a desperate shortage of nurses in the Empire. And as we pointed out, both Riverside County and San Bernardino County have 12 areas each that are designated as medically underserved areas. This is a program that will help serve the communities that we work in, and the populations that are being hurt the most. So we appreciate the board's approval of other programs and appreciate their consideration of our program that will greatly impact our community.
sir, thank you very much. I just want to kind of point out, I was not asking the board to not approve you. My job as the executive officer of the board is to provide information to our members to be able to make a educated decision based on factual information. We did have a California state audit that came through last year that looked at what our board was using in order to make these enrollment increase decisions. These enrollment increase decisions include new campus locations, enrollment increases, as well as new program approvals. So I am tasked with doing the job of presenting the factual information. My board will make the decision, and I am not swaying the board in any way to say yes or no to you. I do have to give this information. So I'm sorry if that came off as I was trying to convince them not to approve you. That was not my intention in any way. I do have to just bring that attention to them because as the board approves these programs, we need to take into consideration the effect of clinical impaction, the effect of programs that are already approved and already have students enrolled that have been committed to be able to complete their clinical rotations through the program. Therefore, I do have to give this information. The one thing that you did say is that you enroll 120 and you graduate 120. That's absolutely correct. But at full capacity, you do have 125 and then 125. I apologize for that. And so then at full capacity, you do have the 250 in a clinical rotation at any point. That's my point right there. Not that you guys are admitting 125 a year and graduating 125 a year. You have 250 students that are in your program that are needing clinical rotations in various settings, whether that be fundamentals of nursing all the way through to advanced med surg. So thank you. I do hear you. My board president was trying to speak, and so I want to give her a chance to speak too. And then, sir, for the notes, can I get your name? I just got a message from my board staff that they were not able to hear your name, and they need that for the notes.
Yes, it's Timothy Lee, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer for American Career College.
Thank you very much.
Lean?
No, Lee, Lee.
Oh, Lee. Okay, thank you.
Susan Naranjo, and thank you for those data points, Lori. As you were speaking, I also was thinking about the same things that the gentleman just raised. And again, I think everyone gets the point at this point, but just also want to emphasize that, again, San Bernardino County is the largest county. To get from one side, like let's say Ontario, to like the other side of the county would take over an hour, let alone depending on where you are in San Bernardino County to get to Riverside is over an hour. So I still see this as an opportunity for not just people in the Inland Empire to get to affordable education if they want a path to be a nurse, but also specifically for those in San Bernardino County. And because of those reasons and everything that we heard today, I'm prepared to support this. So
thanks, Susan. I just have a couple of questions. So yesterday we approved a school that will have approximately 480 students in the school at one time. and we're looking at 250 with your school. Now, what I'm looking at is clinical spots. So what do you think, where are your clinical spots going to be, and how do you envision getting clinical spots for your students while there's another school that's starting up in your area with 480 students that will also be competing for clinical spots?
Thank you, Dolores. And Dr. France and I can tag team on that question. The first thing I'd like to start off is, again, making sure I make a clarification on the map. So the school yesterday is also, I think, is about 120 starts. Even though it's a 3-year program, it's not 3 years worth of students on clinicals. The first year is all gen ed, so there's not clinical rotations attached to that. So their students, when they get to core nursing, will be about the same as ours. And again, it's not 250 because ours is a 20-month program. It's not 2 years worth of students. And the first term, they don't do clinicals. So the number of students at clinicals is not the 250 or the 480 number of students you guys are talking about. It's a lot less than that. It's probably half of the numbers you guys are talking about. But both schools have actually got commitments from hospitals, facilities, and other things for clinical support for the number of students. We have this support as part of our application. We confirmed just last week with all of our hospitals that each hospital is still supporting, they can support our clinicals without displacement of any other schools. Matter of fact, they're so excited about our program because there's a desperate shortage of RNs. They can't wait. They're like, I will hire graduates today. To speak a little bit more on the actual clinical sites themselves, I will hand it over to the program director, please.
What Tim Lee has just communicated is absolutely correct. And I did make several phone calls last week to reconfirm the already confirmed sites that we have to support this campus should this be approved. And I'm fully confident that we have the clinical capacity without causing any displacement. The gentleman yesterday for Arizona talked about a lot of their opportunities to be in the correctional system, and we do not have that in our plans. So if we're talking directly about Arizona, I don't feel that our opportunities will impede on theirs. And again, we have those sites confirmed and we have no intention to displace anybody.
So what hospitals in your area are you planning to do clinicals with? Which
we have confirmations from the Alta system that consists of Foothill Regional that has med-surg, fundamentals opportunities, as well as pediatrics. We also have support from the prime hospitals that are here around the Inland Empire, consisting of Chino Valley, Montclair, as well as some sister hospitals with Alta in Bellflower for mental health, and the LA Community and Norwalk Community Hospital for mental health rotations.
Thank you. So do you know, I'm sure you know because of yesterday we approved Arizona College Baccalaureate program.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what other programs are in the area that you're going to be competing with clinical space for? Do you know what those programs are?
I would say to Arizona, as well as another BSN program, West Coast University, Cal Baptist, RCC perhaps. Yeah.
It's San Bernardino Valley College.
San Bernardino College?
Valley College.
Valley.
Yes.
Valley College. Okay. 2
community colleges in the area, I believe, that have programs: the San Bernardino Valley College and Riverside Community College, which probably have 20 applications for every seat they accept. I know I'm born and raised in the area, still live here, and my sister-in-law has been trying to get into Riverside Community College and San Bernardino Valley College for about 6 years. So I know it's extremely difficult to get into those programs. They're great programs, but there's a huge demand for those programs.
Okay, well, that's several programs in the area, so that is more students. While you may not have clinical in the first term, you do start clinicals in the second term or second semester, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah. So you are putting students out into clinical during the first year. You're just not doing it in the first semester.
Yes, our program is an associate's program. The first year I was referring to, you guys were talking about Arizona College, which is a bachelor's program. Most of the programs do their gen eds up front, and they don't hit clinicals until about 15 months into the program. So the math you guys were talking about was the 130 students times 3 or 4. But again, those students usually don't hit clinicals until after they completed all their gen eds and get into core nursing. So I just wanted to kind of clarify the numbers that were out there, because they're pretty big numbers they're throwing out there. The numbers actually on clinicals were about half of what you guys were talking about.
I think if we take away the first year from Arizona College, that's approximately 360 students. So it's still quite a large number. Compared with also, you have other schools in the area that are also competing for those clinical spots with those hospitals.
Again, Dolores, I don't mean to sound disrespectful. I can't speak for Arizona College, but I do believe their program is a 3-year program. So 3 times 120 would be 360. So the last 2 years, again, I think it's not even the last 2 full years, would be 120 times 2 would be 240, but it's probably somewhere around 200. Ours would be probably about 175 total. So again, there's a ton of clinical. Every single hospital that we've talked to has expressed support for the program. On top of the students we're looking at, you guys are leaving also out the census at these hospitals has skyrocketed because of COVID. So there's plenty of clinical opportunities, you know, and we've secured the most challenging rotations there are, and that's OB and Peds. There's no shortage of med-surg rotations, some of these other rotations. The toughest one are OB and Peds, and we have those secured.
Jane, and I apologize. This is some information that has come up just recently that occurred to me. With our public statement yesterday, the gentleman who spoke was a LVN who graduated from American Career College who wanted to continue and become a registered nurse through the program. And if it's, I apologize if this isn't the right time to ask, but if Dr. France has a feel for the number of LVN graduates from American Career College who may view this as an opportunity and thereby be completing the last 2 semesters and have the clinical concerns at that point. Is there a feel yet from perhaps your graduates or other LVNs? And I'm thinking about clinical placements because there's less of a burden there.
So I think the first part of that question, Mary Jane, this is Tim, I can help with that. For our LVN students who want to come back and take our RN program, we did do a survey. Several hundred grads, I want to say we had like a 60 or 70% response rate, and like 90% of them said that they'd be interested to come back to do the RN program. The student yesterday said the only reason he's not an RN is because he couldn't get into a program in the area and didn't have the opportunity to drive all the way to LA to do a program, or he would be an RN today. And I think that answers your question. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Yes, it does. And again, to the board, I apologize if this was last second, but it was from a commentary leak yesterday, and I was thinking it over overnight.
Thank you. Just to comment on Mr. Lee's assertion that because of COVID, the hospitals are in need. Just so you know, a lot of the hospitals are not even admitting students because of the COVID.
Agreed. I understand that, but again, we haven't had that problem. Right now, we talked to all of our clinical commitments last week, and everybody is still standing by their commitment. They will take us. We have a very large PN program, but we have clinical rotations for all of our PN students in the area. So ACC has a 43-year history in Southern California. So we have a very strong clinical network and connections. And again, the other thing to point out too, even with all the clinical rotations, We do evening rotations, we do weekend rotations, we do everything. Our students know when they sign up for school, hey, when it comes time for clinical, your rotation could be Sunday through Sunday, 12 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we take what the hospitals give us. So we're very flexible. Our students are flexible. And I think it allows us actually to turn out a better nurse because they know their first job is going to be Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Because they're used to doing clinicals at nights and on weekends. So they're available to take those shifts that may not be desirable to new grads.
So you have 12-hour clinicals, 12 a.m. to 12 p.m.?
No. It all depends on the hospital.
That's
I'm
what
just
you
saying our
mentioned,
students
yeah.
need to be available to take clinical rotations at any time.
I'm impressed by your NCLEX pass rates, but I do have a concern. There are other schools in the area. There does not seem to be that many hospitals in the area that can support over between May and now. And with the enrollment, that we approved yesterday, the 480, close to that, even 360. That is a large number, close to 1,000 students every
Ms.
year.
Trujillo, like as Ms. Melby said yesterday, if we come down a year or two down the road and we found, there's an issue, the board has the ability to pull back the number of enrollments. She stated that yesterday. So right now, we know there's a huge demand on the front end. We know there's a huge demand in the hospitals. In fact, yesterday, Long Beach Community Hospital shut their emergency room because they didn't have enough RNs to support it. There's been a ton of published articles over the last few months that talk about the crisis of the nurse shortage in California.
Sure.
And a lot of those things need to be, weighed in here during this conversation. There is a crisis of shortage of RNs right now. We have hospitals that are clamoring for our graduates.
Do you track after the program where your students end up working? Just curious.
We do. Like I said earlier, in our Los Angeles campus, 50% of our graduates are working within 10 miles of the campus. So like I said, not only are we attracting students from our community, our students are working in our community. Most of our students speak languages other than English. Like our graduate yesterday spoke 4 languages. And we know how important it is for nurses to be able to speak a language other than English. It's not just the quality of the access to healthcare, but the quality of care when the patient is able to speak in their native language and express how they're feeling or what's bothering them. So again, our students will not only improve the access to healthcare in the Inland Empire, it will improve the quality of care.
Thank you. As you heard in our report, the inflow into the area will exceed the outflow by 2,000.
I did, Ms. Trujillo, that's a 3 or 4 year old report. It doesn't take into account all the nurses that left during COVID. So again, that's a very old report. There's a million different data points that are refuting that right now, including, I think we looked on Indeed.com and there was, how many job openings in the Inland Empire for RNs? 40. There were 4,200 job openings in the Inland Empire for RNs. So again, that data you guys are speaking to are 3 or 4 years old. There's a lot more relevant, more recent data points that point to the acute shortage. And again, I will use the word crisis of shortage of nurses in the Inland Empire.
Yeah,
this is Imelda. Thank you. We're going back and forth here. I think there's a definitely need. I think, and you'll find out in the reports, and we, the board staff have reported that we still graduating same amount, if not a little bit more students, even though COVID, even because of COVID, we are still graduating students. There is a need, and there has been studies. A lot of the older nurses are retiring. I think at this point in time, we have the authority to go back and pull some of these schools and cut their enrollment. I think right now is not the time to pull back. Let's see what the future holds. We can proceed forward. And again, we have the ability to go back to those schools if they're not performing, to put them on warning status or to remove some of those students that we've approved. Again, I don't think that this is the time. I know that we've gone through the audit and there's certain things that we have to do, But at the same time, we were also criticizing for taking so much authority and not allowing some of those schools to, provide services to those students. And we definitely need nurses. So at this point in time, I'm going again. And the other thing is that we do have a committee, we do have staff, and maybe at the beginning of these reports, maybe staff can give us an overview of that area. How many schools, how many clinical, maybe that would be helpful. So we approved a school yesterday. And so now this school's coming before us, and now we're putting all these why we shouldn't. It sounds like we're
Said why we shouldn't. I would like to gather a little more information and make an informed decision.
Again, that should have been done yesterday, because now we're questioning why we approved yesterday.
Yeah,
So
this is a different school, and they gave us a feasibility report yesterday. We went off of a feasibility report that was submitted prior to this. I have
Do
a
we
question
have
for
one?
Marianne.
Do we have a feasibility report for this school?
In here real quick, and Dolores, and I'll try to explain just a little bit here. So yesterday's school that was approved was Arizona School. It's a brand new program. They go through two steps. The first step was the feasibility report, and that was given to our board in November of last year, where that school came forward and said, we want a new school in this location. Our projection was 120 annual enrollments, and this is how long it would take. And the board approved that in November of last year. What the school did yesterday was finalize that approval. After the board approves that first initial feasibility study, then the NECs take that information, work with the program director to do a self-study, a continuing approval visit essentially, but it's for the initial approval visit. And they make sure that after the board approved their feasibility, that they can go ahead and meet all of the rules and regulations that's defined within the Nurse Practice Act and open. So the school that was approved yesterday to start essentially received its initial approval in November of last year. This school that we're talking about today is completely different. The school that's being presented today is a new campus. And today is the first time that the board is seeing this school and getting the information. So it is a completely separate process. And I just wanted to make sure that I clarified why this school right now would not have a feasibility study. This school would go through the process of getting a substantial change, which is also known as a major curriculum revision. And that's why they're coming forward initially today. This would mirror kind of the process that Arizona College did a year ago with the board. So a year ago with the board reviewed Arizona and said, yes, there is a need for a school where there's need for nurses in Ontario. And yes, you enrolling 120 sounds like a great idea. Can you meet the regulatory requirements? Yes, you can. We'll approve you. And that's what happened yesterday. Today, this is a school that is proposing that they start a new campus in Ontario. And this is the first time the board's heard it. So hopefully that helps to kind of explain the difference between yesterday's school and today's school.
So it does. The process is a little different. It just seems like we need a feasibility report here before we can make any decisions. I mean, the process appears
The wonderful thing, Melda, is we do have a regulatory package in with the Office of Administrative Law that I reported on yesterday, and that is for 1423 and 1432. And new programs who want a new campus will have to go through a feasibility once that gets through. So your wish is granted, and after that gets through the regulatory process, that is the intent. That's actually wonderful that you even brought that up, Imelda, because that's what we're running into is when you have a program that's already established in a location that they did a feasibility study for and they received program approval, they've been serving that area. And then now we have those programs that want to branch out and get a satellite campus, or new campus location someplace else. And they're not required to do an additional feasibility study that says, does this place need me? Do I have the budget? Do I have the resources? Do this. And so this will actually clarify the process. And so thank you for bringing that up. That's very insightful, and it's absolutely the path that the board is moving on.
And Ms. Melby, thank you. You bring up two very good points. One, the current process does not require us to submit a feasibility study. So we've met all the requirements for this application. And two, the regulatory process for what happened yesterday is going to take a very long time. We've met all the requirements for application. Our application doesn't require a feasibility study. And I do want to point out the program you approved yesterday, great for them. It's a brand new school with no track record in California. As I talked about earlier, we have a program in Los Angeles. We have over 90% in-grad pass rates for the last several years. We have retention rates in the mid-90s, placement rates in the high 90s. And we've been in the area for 43 years with the campus already here with the BN program, respiratory therapy program, surge tech, radiography program. We are well established in the Inland Empire in Southern California. So again, we've met all the regulatory requirements. We've demonstrated incredible student outcomes. We've demonstrated we have the clinical capacity. We've demonstrated we have support from our clinical partners, our students, as well as our state legislators. This is a very solid application. There's no reason this application is.
I have one more question and I'm done. Mary, this is for Mary Ann. And what I'd like to know, Mary Ann, is this report that you gave where it included the inflow exceeding the outflow. How old is that report or the data?
Actually, I'm going to refer to Mary Jane. There should be a link in the AIS. If you can click on the link in the AIS from Mary Jane, that will probably actually show you on the link. But if not, you can click on it and see. It is from UCSF, but it is past data, which we talked about, I think, a little bit at the ELC committee meeting, and Mary Fagan had brought up that some of the data is not current because we're waiting on the current data, and that's what Lori was speaking to yesterday.
This is Mary Jane. This summary report from Health Impact is dated January 2nd, 2019. That's when it was completed. The title is Bridging the Gaps in Pre-Licensure RN Clinical Education Capacity.
Thanks, Mary Jane.
Thank you very much.
So again, it was completed January 2019, so it's 2017-18 data. It's 3 to 4 years old.
To provide additional clarification for you, our board does workforce data collection and reporting on an every 2-year basis. You could track that data and trend that data, and that data, the next 2-year, will be presented and available on our website, planning for December. It is finalizing through UCSF right now. In addition to that, we do annual data collection from our schools, and that is posted on our website as well under the report section. So that is how our data collection goes, and that data should be available for use in December.
All right. Thank you, Lori. Is there any other questions or comments from the board? Do we need to open to public comments?
Yes.
Just for clarification, are we opening to public comment prior to taking a motion? Is that
I was going to, but
ask?
I'll take a motion.
And that can happen unless you guys want to make a motion.
Motion to approve.
There you go. All right. So now we can open to public comment.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
Betty, were you the second?
I think it was Betty. Yeah.
Was it Betty? All right, thank you.
Open for public comment. BRN moderator.
We will be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Cheryl Gilliott would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Cheryl.
My name is Cheryl Gilliott, and I am the Chief Nursing Officer at Chino Valley Medical Center. We're a small 112-bed community hospital just 9 miles away from the campus, the Ontario campus of American Career College. The impact that COVID has had on us and other hospitals on the west end of San Bernardino County has been devastating and unprecedented. I witnessed firsthand the impact on nursing in my facility. I saw experienced nurses take early retirement, newer nurses leave for out of state travel contracts, chasing bonuses, driving a long way, and taking temporary positions. Many of my nurses took leave of absence for the fear of the COVID and to care for their children and family at home. The nurses that stayed with me are under extreme stress with less support. Last year, I had 47% turnover of RNs in my facility. Currently, I have 49 RN open positions with very few applicants. We have an extreme need for nurses, and I am in a staffing crisis. I've of course, asked the state for help like we have and the county for help, which we received in January, but they no longer are able to help us. We are forced to pay astronomical rates for travel and registry nurses, which is not sustainable to keep our small community hospital open. I see firsthand the nursing shortage in the Inland Empire and its effects on patient care. When I need to transfer for patients for higher level of care, oftentimes there's beds available, but no nurse available. So a patient that needs a higher level of care cannot receive it because there's not a nurse available. Our census has increased. I believe that many people put off coming to the hospitals and taking care of themselves during this time. And so we are seeing a high increase in our overall census, especially our ICU patients. I would wholeheartedly support a new ADN program at American Career College in our community. If the nurses can go to school and work in the communities where they live, it will certainly improve their quality of life and thus the retention at my facility. I'm strongly supporting the addition of a new ADN program at American Career College for my acute care hospital in Chino. I'm open to any questions you may have.
Thank you, Ms. Gilliott. Izzy Swindler would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
My name is Izzy Swindler. I'm the Legislative Director here up in Sacramento for Assemblyman Chen. And I just want to speak on behalf of the Assembly member. He apologized for not being able to be here, but echo the support for Stanbridge and that we need more nursing programs, and that whatever we need to do to support that and expand those programs and not decrease them is very important in our district. If we could expedite those processes and make it more customer and consumer friendly, that is something the Assembly member vehemently supports. And again, I just want to echo his support for the industry and support for the board. And if there's anything we can ever do, please feel free our door's always open.
Thank you. Valerie Lorerio would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Before Valerie, I just would like to mention that that was a support for Stanbridge, and we have not gotten to the Stanbridge agenda item yet.
Go ahead, Valerie.
Today, my name is Valerie Laredo. I'm in my final term as an LVN student at American Career College in Ontario, California. I am here today to urge you to approve ACC's application for an ADN program and help me fulfill my goal of becoming a registered nurse. As a first-generation American Hispanic woman, it means a great deal to me to be able to give back to my community as a nurse. I have always wanted to be in the healthcare field and started my career as a medical assistant after training for 2 years at my local community college. This experience gave me the exposure to practice that made me realize nursing was intended in my path. However, the waitlist for the ADN programs in the Inland Empire meant that it could be years before I could progress in my career. I did my research of private school options and considered the American Career College ADN program in Los Angeles, but it was simply too far to travel. Instead, I enrolled in the ACC Ontario LVN program, knowing that as a fully accredited school, I could transfer units towards an ADN program in the future. My academic and clinical experiences during COVID have been rigorous, but the school has supported me through it all. Being a nursing student has opened my eyes to the inequities in healthcare. During the majority of my clinical rotations at acute care and rehab centers, I was the only Spanish-speaking care provider on the unit. This made a true difference in the ability for the patients to communicate with their medical team. In my culture, you work hard for what you want. I am prepared to do that to pursue becoming a registered nurse. But the reality is that there aren't enough options for schools in the Inland Empire that provide flexibility for working professional students and can guarantee enrollment. This is why I urge you to approve this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Kiara Nelson would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Kiara.
Karen Nelson, and I live in Helendale, California, in the Inland Empire. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of ACC bringing an ADN program into Ontario. I am proud to share that I'm graduating from ACC, the LVN program, in a few weeks. This accomplishment is a personal and professional victory, and I hope the next time you hear from me, it will be as a registered nurse. I have had the call to nursing for several years. In high school, I volunteered at a hospital in the labor and delivery unit, and I loved the experience. However, the transition from high school to college was tough for me. I had some stops and starts at my local colleges as life handed me some difficult challenges and the loss of a beloved family. Thanks to the support of my mother, I completed a certified nursing assistant program, and she was my rock, going so far as to take the course with me, even though she has a career and degree. As a CNA, I served in the postpartum unit at my local community hospital, right back where I had started my dream of nursing. Finishing that program and serving in my new job gave me the confidence to know that I can continue to advance in my nursing career. When I was ready to apply for LVN programs, I knew that I would need a lot of support. I chose ACC after research into my options because the outcomes, support services, and positive environment education in the COVID era is difficult. But I appreciate the connections I have made with faculty and for the opportunity to achieve my degree and become a registered nurse. Finishing this program, I know that I can be successful in the ADN program. But the long wait list and limited opportunity to have flexibility to work and learn are going to make it hard for me to reach that goal. This Ontario program would allow me to continue my professional career. I am also very worried that without my ADN program, I won't be able to receive or achieve financial security. My family is planning to move out of state, and I will need a full support for myself as I want to stay here in the Inland Empire. The pay difference between an LVN and an RN is significant for me. If I can have the opportunity to become a registered nurse, I know that I will make a difference in my community. This is why I ask that you approve this program. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you. Alonzo Benberry would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Alonzo.
Board of Registered Nurses. My name is Alonzo Benberry. Thank you for this opportunity to speak in support of American Career College application for an Ontario ADN program. I am proud to share that I am close to graduating from the ACC LVN program This will mark a significant moment in my nursing career, but I will continue to advance my education towards my goal of becoming a registered nurse. I live and work in the Inland Empire and come from a family of nurses and healthcare professionals, including my fiance, who is an LVN at a addiction rehab center and pain management center in Palm Springs. We are proud parents of a 2-year-old son. I originally started my education in health information management, but it was through my personal journey as an African American with a congenital blood condition that I ultimately decided my chosen path is nursing. We all know that there is a need to address implicit bias and inequities in healthcare and provide culturally competent care. I have experienced inequities firsthand. Most recently, I was an inpatient at an Inland Empire hospital for 2 months. During my stay, many of the nurses were overworked, and I struggled to get the attention, respect, and care I needed to prevent a delayed stay. I know that if I had the opportunity to reach my goal of becoming a registered nurse, I will make a true impact in patient lives. Unfortunately, the wait list to ADN programs have prevented me from moving forward. I had finished my prerequisites at my community college, but the wait list to all the public and private schools in the region are staggering, and it gave me no guarantee that I could move forward to provide for my family. I chose ACC LVN program because it was a smart first step that gave me great outcomes. I love the ACC program. It is challenging being a student in the COVID area, but I have had fun with it, and the faculty, they're so flexible, and they help us, to schedule what we need and work around. I had limited childcare option, and they were able to help me with a schedule that worked for my family. I am hopeful that you will support this application because it allows me and so many other people like me who deserves it to give the opportunity to serve their community as a registered nurse. Thank you.
Thank you. Board President Trujillo, there are no other public requests for comment. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, close the window, please. Before we go to a vote, I would just like to thank the students during public comment. This is the interest in the board that we would like to see more often, and hear the comments of the students that are in various programs. I appreciated all of these comments. So let's take it to a vote. We have a motion on the floor in support.
Would it be okay if I repeat the motion, Dolores?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
fine.
So the motion would be to accept the changes to an approved program, which is a major curriculum revision of American Career College, associate degree nursing program, addition of a new campus or location.
Yes. And we have a
Thank you.
second from Betty, I
Betty.
believe. Yeah. Okay, let's take it to a vote. Dolores Trujillo votes yes. Jovita Dominguez,
Jovita votes yes.
Elizabeth Woods,
Woods, yes.
Susan Naranjo, and Imelda.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Agenda item 9.3.3, discussion and possible action regarding acceptance of changes to an approved program, major curriculum revision for Concordia University, Irvine, baccalaureate degree nursing program, requesting an enrollment increase. Concordia University, Irvine is requesting an enrollment increase to add a third cohort to their nursing program. They are located in Orange County in Southern California. Concordia currently enrolls 2 cohorts of 64 students and requests to add a third cohort, phasing in the number of students enrolled over time until the 64 student limit is met. NEC data research suggests that Los Angeles region of California, which includes Los Angeles, Orange, and Ventura, has a growing supply of registered nurses due to the expansion of local RN education programs and satellite campuses. Projections of supply and demand through 2035 indicate that an RN shortage may exist now, but may dissipate due to rapid growth. The surplus of RNs may be possible in the future. I am the NEC for Concordia University, Irvine. They have submitted an updated executive summary, so the document you have from them is new and updated to address the concerns that were raised at the Education and Licensing Committee. And I will be joined by Dr. Shel Smythe-Badgham, who is the program director. Mark, if you could please elevate Dr. Badgham. Are there any questions from the board? Cheryl, did you want to speak? If you do, go ahead. I think you're able to unmute yourself down at the middle at the bottom.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for your time today. It's an honor to serve as director of the Concordia University's Accelerated Bachelor's Program. Concordia is a not-for-profit liberal arts university in Irvine. We are currently seeing, as we've all spoken to, this nursing shortage. And really what I'd like to focus on is kind of the current and relevant data that we've gathered from a variety of sources, attempting to really demonstrate the acute need for registered nurses. We looked at national data, state data, regional data, and of course, local data. So as Marianne said at the ELC meeting on the 7th, the data that was presented by the NEC was pre-pandemic numbers, and it does not reflect the current dramatic changes we are witnessing. After that meeting, we gathered up and updated the summary, which you have in front of you. There is overwhelming evidence that there's a need for RNs in the workforce, not only nationally and statewide, but also regionally in both LA and Orange County. Obviously, nationally, we understand that hospitals are reporting nurses leaving en masse, and we've already heard from one CNO, retirement, exhaustion, burnout, vaccine mandates, higher paying jobs. And so the national shortage of RNs is truly a threat to public health. The state of California already has a nursing shortage, one of the highest in the nation, from the Bureau of Health Workforce, which has only intensified due to COVID pandemic. Already mentioned was the recent research article in August of 2021 about the impact of COVID by Spetz, Chu, and Blash, which talks about the supply of nurses in 2021 to be about 40,000 below demand, and which is about a 14% gap. They predicted that this would persist for about 5 years, but so much of the recent literature I've been reading, the impact of the pandemic on the RN workforce has implications far beyond the pandemic, and I would predict far beyond 5 years. Regionally and locally, our institution collected data in Orange County and LA County in terms of RN workforce. The Oshpod data, the June 2020, again, this is prior to the full impact and fallout of the pandemic, reveals that there's been shortages in both Orange and LA County. The situation has only gotten worse. In the last year, we've seen exodus of nurses from acute care arenas for a number of reasons like stress, insufficient resources, retirement, heavy workloads, burnout. So we're now at a crisis level. We examined real-time labor market data, which shows that in the greater LA area, which includes Orange County, there's a 23% increase in RN job openings. There's also an increase in travel RN agency job postings as well. Hospital demand for RNs has led to a dramatic increase in the number of travel nurses filling the local vacancies. Our local healthcare systems have had an unprecedented number of RN job openings, and they are struggling to fill those positions. The RN headcount data from HASC, which is the Hospital Association of Southern California, their healthcare workforce data report shows that there's a reduction of about 14,000 RNs from the beginning of 2019 to the end of the second quarter of 2021. So Concordia Irvine's Accelerated Bachelor Program educates excellent nurses who are well qualified and ready to enter the workforce in 15 months with their bachelor's. We can only admit 40 to 45% of our applications that we get. So there's quite a few that we cannot admit because we don't have enough seats. Upon your approval, we're ready to begin that spring cohort in January, and that they will graduate in May of 2023 and enter the workforce during this really troublesome nursing shortage. We have very high NCLEX board scores of 98%, very low attrition rates, and we have a very diverse student population. About 56% of our students are from racial or ethnic minority groups, and that really does mirror what we see population-wise in Orange County according to the US Census. We have a real good track record of our graduates being hired within 2 to 6 months after graduation. We use acute care, ambulatory care, community settings. We use day shifts and night shifts and weekends for our clinical rotations, and we have support from all of our local hospital partners. Thank you for accommodating our request for enrollment to increase 64 students so that we can strengthen the pipeline of new graduates that are so desperately needed during this nursing shortage. Thanks.
Thanks, Cheryl. I think you're on mute. It's okay. Happens to all of us.
There we go. Thank you for letting me know. From several reports that I've read, a lot of the shortages are happening. Many of the shortages are happening from nurses who are leaving the bedside because they're not supported during this time of COVID. I'm just concerned that these students at some point will get the experience from you and turn around and leave also. You have impressive NCLEX rates, and I want to congratulate you on that. So that would be 64 students starting during what semester?
It would be the spring semester, so January.
Okay.
So 3 times a year. They're going to, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Cheryl, spring, summer, and fall.
That's correct.
They will be admitting 64 students. Well, not at first. The spring semester, they're going to kind of work up to that, right? I don't know that they have 64 applicants right now because this is this would be new.
Correct.
But their goal is 64 3 times a year.
Okay. Okay. What are the hospitals in your area that you're planning to accommodate, not accommodate, but are you planning for clinicals for this extra 64 each semester?
Yes, so we have great relationships with the hospitals in our area. So the Providence Healthcare System, Memorial Care System, which of course has a number of hospitals, which is nice. We're not just dealing with one. We've also, because of COVID, been able to expand into the community, which we hope to continue those relationships and work for students to have those opportunities in the community. Being a nurse practitioner myself, I think the community and students understanding that their role as an RN not only can be acute care, but out into the community and public health is very important. And so we've really been able to expand that way as well. So, you know, we've been in existence for 10 years. And so our relationships with our hospital partners are strong, and they have had no problems supporting our growth.
Any other questions from the board or any other comments?
But this
is an enrollment increase, correct?
That's correct.
Yes, this is a program that's been in existence. And so they would have, as Lori was explaining earlier, they would be in the same category as the ones that are established programs asking for an enrollment increase or a new campus. They're not a brand new program, so they did not have a feasibility in the process the way Arizona did. Jovita, did you have a question?
I don't know if it's for Lori or for Dr. Marianne, but my question is, and it might not even be for 9.3.3, but when would the board have an idea, or because I'm trying to educate myself since I don't live in the LA. I actually hate going through their freeways, but it's how do we know when it's too much impaction in that area? I know that we went around and around, but it's just because I don't live in that area, just like I don't live in Ontario. How does the board know when that would be too much impact of too many students, as Dolores was commenting on 9.3.2?
Answer that a little bit and just kind of lead you to data. And so what the board typically does is when they received the materials for the Education Licensing Committee, the program inserts an executive summary. That executive summary is from the program. The program drafts that, puts in proof of a need. Typically with every substantial change, including enrollment increases, we ask why. What is the precipitating factor for this? What is leading you up to this decision? What is the effect on the students? What is the outcome that you're looking for? And do you have the resources to support that? So that is part of the executive summary. Then our nursing education consultants take that information and they go to the data that's collected by statute for the Board of Registered Nursing. And right now that data collector is, we're contracted with UCSF, who does those every 2-year workforce reports for us, and then an annual school report. When on our website under reports, there are reports from the schools. In that area, you can zoom in and you could find out what those schools are saying. And schools in that annual report will say, I have experienced clinical displacement. We've lost clinicals because of this. And you will find that information in those reports. And our NEC will typically link to those reports in the agenda item summary when you're prepping for the board meeting. Additionally, what was asked of me was to include that chart. And so in the materials today, or yesterday, sorry, I included the chart that says every enrollment increase, every new campus increase, every new program, including the feasibilities of what the board has done in the last 3 years. The reason that those were included was to help you guys see students to come. And so right now, it's hard to predict the impact that those enrollment increases that the board has already done over the last 2 or 3 years is really going to have on our nursing clinical sites, because it takes a minute for it to hit the community. So a new program, and as the gentleman was speaking with ACC, the first year is typically general education, or at least the first semester. General education courses are not yet in clinicals. And then it takes a while. And so one of the statements I made is when they're at full capacity. So if you have a 2-year program, they have a teach in. If you have a 3 or a 4-year program, they have a teach in. So it takes 2, 3, 4 years to get to full capacity. And at that point is when you're really going to start to see the effects in that regional area on the number of students that the board is placing. So what we need to take, what the board takes into consideration is in 2019, these enrollment increases occurred. Just over 1,000 new student slots the board approved. The next year during COVID, the board approved about half of that. And to date, the board has approved about 1,000 again. And so those are students coming in that have never existed before that will be affecting those clinical placements. Additionally, we as the NECs, the greater we, not me, the greater we at the board hear from the schools when they have a problem finding clinicals. One of the regulatory updates that is with the Office of Administrative Law, excuse me, is CCR 1427. With CCR 1427, that amendment, based on the California State Auditor's recommendation that we received last year, when the auditor stated that the board was not using data to make enrollment decisions, we were required to have the NECs update the agenda item summary to put in these data links, to not just pass what the school has given to them as evidence, but actually look to see if there is evidence to the contrary or evidence in support, and provide that to the board members for decision. Additionally, the ask was to ask our schools that are currently approved and enrolling students that if they have any change to clinicals, that they have to let their NEC know within 90 days. That includes whether or not they are decreased in clinical numbers, increased in clinical numbers, whether the Joint Commission's coming through and they lost a clinical site, whether a hospital has undergone a remodel or is removing locations and you've lost a clinical site. Additionally, when a hospital site or a healthcare facility has an overwhelming number of travelers, a lot of times they will choose not to have students during that point because they don't have their full-time staff there. And that happens when people go out on maternity leave or have great illnesses and such. And then what we saw last year was the impact that COVID had, where when it hit, the hospitals and healthcare facilities closed their doors to all students and in fact barred them from coming into clinical practice. And so the program directors contacted the legislators and contacted our board and said, we are not able to progress and graduate our students because we do not have clinical sites. We do not have the ability to get our students through. And that is why AB 2288 was passed. And we then decreased our direct patient care requirement for clinicals to allow our students to progress and graduate. There was a lot of opposition met with that. Because our board continued to maintain that the direct patient care was where that patient safety came from, and that adequate preparation came from. And so we look at all of that data. We looked that there had to be an emergency law put into place. That law from our program directors currently is still asked every month to have it extended. Currently, the Dca Waiver is extended to decrease those clinical hours requirements in direct patient care so that our students can continue to progress and graduate through December 31st. And that was a huge ask to the governor to have that go into effect because the nursing program directors are still saying they're struggling with clinicals. Additionally, into the sunset bill, when we got the 1-year extension, it was put in that they would extend 2186.3, which is 2288, to go for an entire academic year. So now that provision has been in place for 2 full academic years, and that will not expire until June. Again, an ask by our current program directors because they are stating they cannot find clinicals. They need to decrease the direct patient care. They need to be able to have a waiver on the concurrency so that they can progress and graduate their students. So we get a lot of input that says there are huge amounts of clinical impaction. As a board, we're also exploring whether or not there can be a consortium of some sort, a statewide consortium, something that shows all of the clinical spots for all of the area. One of the California State Auditor's recommendation was for the board to create a data bank. What we've done so far is collect all of the approved clinical placements from our nursing programs, and we've compiled that into a data bank. We are doing data cleanup right now, and that will be presented and published out to our website as soon as we receive that. The problem with that is our board only has jurisdiction over our academic institutions. We do not have jurisdiction over our healthcare providers and our healthcare facilities, so we cannot require all of the data from all of the potential clinical spots. We've been able to use the Oshpod data to validate the data that our schools have given us, but we still don't have the healthcare data. And there was a law passed, AB 1015, and that requires us to get all of those clinical placements that was just passed and signed into law by the governor this year, and it becomes effective January 1. That, again, was an ask from the California State Auditors. The board supported that. And that is because there is a overwhelming outcry from our nursing program directors saying that they are experiencing clinical displacement. So as a board, it's very difficult for you guys to take in all of the information. One of the things that Dolores read in that article yesterday was that the shortage is not necessarily going to be fixed by student enrollment. There's research articles out there that show that students, once they've graduated and enter the workforce, 33% of them leave within the first 2 years. So graduating students and then seeing them leave this dream, we heard our students in public comment saying, this is my dream. This is what I've worked for all my life. I want to show my family that this is different. This is an economic need. They enroll in these schools. Our schools prepare them as much as they can, especially now that we've decreased our education requirements to manage through a pandemic. And then we put them out into an environment that they're not feeling supported. In that article, they talk about moral burnout. In that article, they talk about not being supported by their employers, and they're leaving. The program directors that have made comment throughout this meeting today too also talked about how the hospitals in that area are needing nurses because they're having to pay for travelers and it's not sustainable. And then they also mentioned that their nurses are leaving to take the traveling assignments because of the increased wages with the traveling assignments. So it's really impossible for the board to take everything into consideration. And so what the board does is take as much evidence they can into consideration, kind of wrap their head around it. We need more public comment. We need other nurses, current bedside nurses, to talk about what they need at the hospital, what shortage they're experiencing. We need the students from other area colleges to say, you know what, I couldn't get the clinical that I wanted because we weren't able to get in there, and I had to do a clinical in a nursing home, and I really wanted to do a clinical in the emergency room. That happens. We don't get that kind of attendance within our board meetings. Right now, we have 97 attendees in our meeting, and that's wonderful. Yesterday, we had over 150. So I see a change happening, but the board just really needs to take in as much information as they can, use that evidence, and make decisions as well as they can in the moment right now. And then, as I said yesterday, if we have to make changes in the future where we hear student complaints, we're hearing more complaints, where we find out that students are not able to progress and graduate, that the NECs take that information and bring them back forward. I do have an NEC that emailed me yesterday stating that they were contacted by UMass, which was Brandman University. That's a program on that chart that was approved in 2019. Brandman University was approved for an enrollment of, I believe, 70 students annually, and they are not able today to continue their enrollment. They let the NEC know that they've experienced such great clinical impaction and an inability to find resources, i.e. being faculty, that they have to stop. And so they are choosing to adjust their enrollment, not take a class enrollment until they're able to get resources and find new clinicals. So these are the information that we have to all take into consideration when making these enrollment decisions. So hopefully that helps to clear that up, Jovita. It's not an easy answer. It's a learning process, and we will just continue to support the board in any way that we possibly can through the NEC's agenda item summaries, through the review of the executive summaries, through any additional data that you may request of me that I can collect and bring forward to you. And if you want to have presentations, if you want other points of view to be brought forward, let me know and I will bring them forward and put them on the agenda so that they can present to you guys.
I'd just like to comment that for Concordia University, we have not had any problems getting back into our hospital partners. We are at 75% direct patient care. And so it has not been an issue for us. Only during the beginning crazy of COVID pandemic did we, of course, have those issues, but we are fully back into our clinical agencies. The things that have changed are the number of students. So we have less students per rotation, but we've been able to get ample experiences, both acute care as well as ambulatory community settings, for our students to get a very well-rounded clinical opportunities.
That's wonderful news. You're at 75% in direct patient care. How long have you been back doing that?
Since fall.
Since fall. That's fantastic news. Thank you so much. So you're not currently using the DCA waiver and you're not currently using 2786.3 with the provisions provided by AB 2288. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that information.
Lori, I would like to thank you for that enormous amount of information. I know that I read these things, but it's very hard to keep them on track. And actually, Ms. Cheryl, I was going to ask that question and you beat me. The answer was before the question. So I appreciate that because I was going to ask if you were using that waiver. Thank you.
Yes.
If there's no other questions from the board, we probably need to make a motion.
Thing.
Sure.
So with the previous school, it's hard. We have to ask these hard questions. We would like to approve everyone, but we also know that there are things going on, especially in the LA, not so much maybe Inland Empire, but clinical impactions where schools initially started out, but they're not able to go on. So we do need to ask these hard questions. And it's difficult sometimes, but the questions need to be asked because of what is going on right now, especially in the LA area. All right. So what we need now is a motion.
I motion, this is Jovita, I motion that we accept 9.3.3. Is that
Was
Susan?
that Susan?
I think,
Yes,
does she
it's
need
Susan.
more information on that
Thank
motion,
you.
or that's okay?
I'm sorry, Dolores, what did you just say?
Oh, I'm just asking if you need to define the motion a little more, or just to say 9.3.3 is okay.
Mary Ann, would you help me with the motion?
Sure, I sure will. The motion would be for 9.3.3 to accept changes to an approved nursing program, a substantive change for Concordia University Irvine baccalaureate degree nursing program enrollment increase.
Do we go to public comment now and then vote?
I think we had a second
Yes.
from Susan.
Yes.
Okay. Yes, BRN moderator, can you please open for public comment?
Public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment."
As the board moderator types in, I just received an email that came across literally at 10:33, so right now. And this is from a program director, Alice Martanegar. I just butchered her name. I'm so sorry. Montenegra. And it was sent to our NEC and forwarded on to me from Alice. And what it states is, "Hi, Mary Jane. This was Thursday, November 18th, sent to Mary Jane at 10:32 and sent to me at 10:33. I'm very concerned in learning that Concordia University and Stanbridge University are requesting for an enrollment increase to the board. The impact of 64 students is going to impact all 3 community colleges, Saddleback College in Orange County area. They share our clinical sites. Thank you, Alice."
Sorry, who is that, Lori? Alice, last name. Did you say the last name? Who is this?
Martinegra, she's in the audience.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, she can come on in public comment if she wants. So let's open to public comment.
MJ Cardeniccio, would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, MJ.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning. Thank you for your time. My name is Maria Jean Catarnicchio, and I am the Assistant Director of Academic Clinical Partnerships for Concordia University, Irvine. In my role, I routinely interface with the nursing leadership for our affiliate partners. Over the last month, I've interviewed several chief nursing officers from hospitals and healthcare systems in the greater Long Beach, Orange County area, and some common themes emerged that I'd like to share with the board. Currently, hospitals in both Orange and LA counties are struggling to fill RN positions. RN vacancy rates are up and continue to rise. Memorial Care Health System shared that they are experiencing an RN vacancy rate of 7.6%. They are using an average of 400 traveling nurses per month and have a total of 133 open RN positions as of October 18, 2021. St. Joseph Hospital in Orange also reported a 6.7% vacancy rate during the same time period. In addition, Prime Healthcare reports that they currently have 700 RN vacancies across their health system in Southern California. These local CNOs foresee the RN shortage continuing over the next several years as registered nurses are leaving positions in hospitals, as we've heard previously, to pursue less stressful roles, start retirement, take jobs that pay extremely high wages, or leave the profession altogether. I would also like to note that in recent weeks, we have received multiple recruitment requests from our clinical partners in acute, ambulatory, and community healthcare settings. They are desperate for nurses, and they are reaching out to our senior nursing students, who are soon to be new graduates, to fill the mounting vacancies that they have in their respective settings. As you know, quality education is the bedrock for growing the population of skilled registered nurses, and Concordia University Irvine's nursing program is positioned to meet the rising need for quality new grads. Again, I'd like to thank the Board of Registered Nursing for their time today.
Thank you, MJ. Mary Steckler would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Mary.
I had a little trouble getting my mute button off. I was on the meeting last night with a lot of the leaders, nursing leaders in the Orange County area, and that is true. They are suffering from staffing issues. However, there's another side to this coin. As an associate degree program, we're trying to get our clinical sites. We're trying to get our students into those sites, and we're being denied or declined. I've got two coming up in spring, 2 cohorts that don't even have a site available yet. And the cohorts that we have, the hospitals are decreasing the number of students that can come. So for the hospitals to say, yeah, we have a staffing issue and we need more nurses, well, they need to let us get in there to train these nurses. And then we could provide the nurses. But that impact of increasing from Concordia and Stanbridge will definitely, that'll make it worse for us. And as it is, we can only bring out 40 students in the spring and or 60 in the fall and 40 in the spring because of the sites, the limitation on the sites. So please, please, I oppose this increase or this request from Concordia. Thank you.
Thank you. Alice Martinegra would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
Hi, this is Alice Martinegra calling from Golden West College. We are a community college here in Huntington Beach, Orange County, California. This is our first semester coming back from COVID, going back into the hospitals. I understand there's a need for increase of enrollment, and there's a shortage of nurses everywhere at the hospitals that is surrounding our area. However, our first time coming back into the hospitals just for clinical rotation has impacted the program so much, not just in regards to clinical placement, but also in regards to staffing and fiscally impacting the community college. Because the hospitals are now requesting that we reduce our clinical size or clinical rotation size to almost from 10 to like 6. That is a lot of clinical rotations or placements that we would have to locate in order to facilitate, and progress our students at the community college level. We cannot have students traveling to areas outside of our Orange County area because this is a community college and our students don't have sometimes the resources, such as gas and so forth, to go to these outskirts of Orange County to complete their clinical rotations. We understand that the hospital needs nurses and we sympathize with them and we're trying to graduate as much nurses as fast as possible. However, my teachers are texting me every day who are at the front lines with these students, letting me know the census are down. There's too many registries. They won't take our students, even with the minimum 6 students per clinical placement. So this is our struggle every week to make sure that these students have enough hours, adequate hours in direct care to just complete their courses in this semester. And so with that being said, we are using 75%, 25%, and all of the waivers as it applied to us as much as possible, but there's still not enough nurses in the hospital to train our students. So if you add another group of enrolled students into the area, we don't know what it looks like in the spring. We're scared because our CNOs and our clinical educators or directors of education are saying, wait until the spike comes up after Christmas, after New Year's. And right now there's an increase of COVID patients in the hospitals. And our students are not allowed to be in those areas just because they're vaccinated. They don't even allow students in isolation areas. And we have to fix that gap in simulation because we cannot graduate students at a community college level to have good, competent nurses not knowing how to take care of isolation patients just because they cannot have that experience at the hospital. So I beg you, please reconsider. Maybe in the future, we can go ahead and look at increasing enrollment in this area, but it's just too soon. We just started going back into the hospitals. We want to make sure these are competent nurses, not just to fill in the gaps here and there with clinical experience and not be able to function and transition. Because then at the end of the day, it affects the hospital with retention and attrition. So I just wanted to make that comment on behalf of Golden West College and the community colleges in this area. Thank you.
Board President Trujillo, there are no other public requests for comment. Would you like me to close this window?
Yes, thank you. So we've heard public comments. There are concerns about this increase, concerns that concerns that the board has been echoing the past few meetings, that clinical sites, especially in this area, is impacted. The answer is not turning out more students for the shortage. The answer really is the hospitals need to support the nurses that they have now, especially during this critical time of COVID, which is continuing into at least its second year. I would like to maybe consider a change to the motion that is on the floor.
To speak 1 moment.
Yes, I'm almost done. I would like to consider a change to the motion that's on the floor. I think this is something, as a board, we really need more information to look into this and decide accordingly, because yes, some of the information might be a little dated, but we need more current information to make an informed decision. I know that if Mary were here, she would echo that same sentiment, that we need information to make an informed decision. So I would like to consider that the motion on the floor be revised. Dr. Padgett?
Yes, Padgham, yes.
Padgham, sorry, I
Thank you.
apologize. I didn't mean
No
to
worries.
butcher your name.
No.
You had something to say?
Yes, I just wanted to, again, thank you for the floor moment, just to let you know that our spring start would not have any clinicals in it. This is their first semester, so they would be within the skills lab. And then by summer, we will have them in clinical areas. We've already been in contact and reached out to our community as well as our acute care settings to see how they can accommodate us. We have our ADP 18s in place, which our directors say they will not displace. So that is certainly something that we consider anytime we think about increasing enrollment, is how it impacts others. So our hospital agencies, as well as the school itself, we think about that as we grow. And so I wanted to, don't want to displace anyone, and our EDP 18s are in place for that reason, so that we have the guarantee from the directors as well.
Do you know what schools you compete for in the area for clinical space?
Yes, absolutely. We have schools in the Orange County area. We have, as they've already mentioned, West Coast, Stanbridge. There are some Vanguard, so Western Governors. And again, we've all been able to collaborate and work at getting spaces and have not had, certainly Concordia has not had an issue of being displacing anyone that we are aware of, nor have we been displaced, besides COVID.
How many students have been accepted to the spring?
We have, again, we wanted to taper up, so we have approximately 24 that we could start in the spring once we get the approval.
Dolores, would it be would the board be amendable to instead of having, I believe the number was 64, and please tell me if that's not the number that I recall.
That is correct, Jovita.
Okay, so would we be able to amend it to maybe starting with 24? Because I think it was it twice a year that they
It will be 64 students 3 times a year when it's fully implemented.
Spring, summer, and fall.
Could we start with 24 3 times a year?
Their current enrollment?
Their current is, well, they currently have 64 twice a year. Cheryl, do you know exactly your numbers? I don't have
correct.
exactly who you're in right now. How many you have right now?
It's 128. We actually have about 124 right now, but 128 is what we have cohort size for the year. So all we're asking for is an additional 64 students, and we would taper up starting out with 24 in the spring and then tapering up to probably 48 the following spring, and then the total of 64 the following.
We need to really look at this data closely. And for me, I'm willing to put it off till the board meeting in February and try to collect this data so that we can make an informed decision. They're not admitting till the spring.
Hi, this is Imelda Sehab Budgoods. I would like to make a comment.
Sure.
Yeah. First of all, Jovita can remove her motion if she would like. Again, I think it's this board's responsibility to actually reach out to the hospitals and get a better understanding as to how many clinical placements they have. I think we need to do that. We can't expect the schools to be asking and getting this information. Let's face it, they're all in business, okay? They're all competing against each other. I think it's our job to get the information and be prepared when they come before us. Again, we could approve and then we could always come back, and if we need to make adjustments, we could. I don't think that, I understand that, you know, the clinical placement, I really do. And that's why this board really needs to take a hard look at their simulation, approve more simulation. We have been resistant for so long. I think we were forced to accept simulation, but we need to move forward. We need to be with the times and change with the times. That is my comment. I think we need to approve this. There's already been a motion, unless Jovita wants to remove it. We need to approve it, move forward, and we can always revisit this at any time when we get information from the hospitals and from the schools that there is an issue. I've heard that there are some issues, but we need to confirm that. Thank you.
This is Betty, and I'd like to make a few comments about this displacement. I've been on the board 8 years, and we've been dealing with displacement. We deal with it in meetings like this. I'm not sure the final impact of it. I haven't heard that nurses haven't been able to complete their programs because of they've been displaced. So I'm not quite sure that it's as big a problem as we might think it is, and perhaps it is, and I might be entirely wrong with this. The thing that bothers me mostly about what we've been talking about is that we lose a third of nurses after 2 years in practice. Why are we losing nurses that have just graduated and they leave the profession? The other thing about this is that everybody does not go into the hospital. Many new nurses are hired directly in outpatient settings. They're in clinics and spas. So they're not all going into the hospital right away. So I'm not, with my long history in nursing, I'm not concerned so much about this displacement. I'm concerned about us losing nurses. So I don't have a problem with adding the numbers that they want to add right now.
So I would like to make a comment. Imelda, I don't know whether we have any type of jurisdiction to go into hospitals and get those numbers. Maybe Marianne.
Dolores, I can comment. We do not have the jurisdiction to get those numbers from our healthcare facilities. The what the board has any influence on is the preparation of the students in academic situations, the licensing of our nurses, their scope of practice, and discipline action. We do not have jurisdiction over our healthcare facilities. All of the staffing ratios, all of the healthcare facilities fall under the California Department of Public Health, CDPH. And they also partner with the data collection with Oshpod. That is a separate state entity. We do not have anything in our statute or regulations that allows us to get that information at this point.
Thank you, Lori.
Comment, I think we could work with some legislators and maybe make it happen. I mean, if it all fails and we don't have the jurisdiction, then let's work with our legislators. It sounds like some of the letters of support that they are very supportive of continuing the nursing program. So let's work on that, folks.
We've also heard from public comment, schools that are impacted by displacement. This is something, when I first came onto the board, just about every school was being approved for enrollment increases. And I think over the years, now we're seeing what that enrollment increase that we've approved over the years, what it's doing now.
Is it doing now?
What is it doing now? There's lack of clinical space. We just heard from 2 schools that are having problems with clinical space. There are more out there that are having issues with clinical space. I think, Imelda, to your point, we do need that data. Unfortunately, at this time, the BRN does not have jurisdiction to obtain that data directly from the hospitals. But the data needs to be updated so that we can make an informed decision. Right now, I don't feel like this is an informed decision. We keep receiving these enrollment increases. That in part is responsible for the lack of clinical space and the impact of the schools. We've had schools that do teach out plans because they can't get clinical space. So that is within our jurisdiction, whether to approve or disapprove the enrollment increases. I'm not talking about going back later and looking at it again, because we don't. What I've seen is we don't go back later and look at it again. What I'm saying is I think we should hold off, somehow get the data, get it updated, and then in the board meeting in February, we can make an informed decision.
Thank you. I think there's a motion on the floor in a second.
I'm not done, Imelda. Right now, I don't think we have the information to make an informed decision. And yes, I know there is a motion on the floor. But just as you wanted to make a comment, Betty wanted to make a comment, I'm making a comment. So there is a motion on the floor.
I would amend it, and I'd like to say instead of doing the 64 3 times a year, to start with 24. I believe Susan seconded. I don't know if she'd be willing to accept the amendment.
Real quick, I just need clarification on that motion. They're currently enrolling 64 twice a year. Are you saying that the additional enrollment would be 24 instead of 64? Is that correct?
Yes, thanks for correcting me. I thought it was 3 times.
And then I do have one more question. Are you asking that the program come back in a year to be reevaluated to move to that 64 or 2 years, or what is your plan? Because the request was for 64 3 times a year.
Would the board be able to be more knowledgeable in a year to see if increasing it to any number to cap at 64, would the board be more knowledgeable then?
I think we will be. I hear exactly what Imelda is saying, and I've heard exactly what Betty's saying. And so Imelda has requested that we seek legislation. We are currently in a sunset year, and we have the ability to seek legislation. It could even go through our sunset bill. That is an absolute possibility if that's what our legislative partners would be willing to do, to add in that jurisdiction so that we can get that information from our healthcare partners. And that would be a wonderful idea. And thank you, Imelda, for suggesting that. I think that's great. Additionally, Betty brought up that issue of putting more students out and having simulation. That's absolutely something that the board has been asked about many times over the last few years. The reason that the request for simulation is out there to be increased is that it directly decreases the direct patient care component. That's why a lot of the people are asking for percentages. And really what we're seeing on the horizon is to get away from percentages, to really go for a baseline direct patient care. We do have an agenda item later on 1426 to kind of open up this conversation for our board to have those conversations. I know that in the past, the language has been around simulation, increasing simulation. But again, this is another opportunity for education here. And just like I clarified earlier on in this conversation that we have no jurisdiction over healthcare facilities, that we only have jurisdiction over our academic partners. The other thing is we have no jurisdiction over simulation. We do not have anything that shows that we oversee simulation in our regulatory language at all. In 1426 G2, it says, with the exception of the first clinical course, which Concordia mentioned, that first clinical course is done 100% in the lab and not affecting clinical sites. That's within our regulations. That's perfectly fine. But that the remaining has to be done with 75 direct patient care. We do not opine on simulation. The board does not have any statutory language on simulation, does not have any regulatory language on simulation. The only time that simulation, that language has been brought into our jurisdiction is through the emergency regulation that went through AB 22, sorry, the emergency law that went through AB 2288 that now became 2786.3. And so the board's ability to make this change is absolutely something that we can do. And we can look at a minimum direct patient care hour requirement. And I'll talk more of that when we get into 1426. That is what the state of Washington has done. It's what the state of Virginia has done. Multiple states have. I can pull that data from NCSBN. But we do still also need to look at preparing our students. So the people leave 2 years after graduation. Why is that? Were they not prepared adequately enough in school? There's a lot of data that speaks to that. They call that the theory practice gap. There's also data out there that talks about the NCLEX that says this is what we've used traditionally and that may not be incredibly effective. NCSBN took that to heart. They've been working on updating the NCLEX, and that NCLEX will be revised in 2023. So healthcare is changing, nursing education is changing. The BRN needs to look at all of this stuff, and we need to look to see what we can do. But it ultimately comes down to really protecting our students and our nurses. That's what we have the oversight of, and that's academic preparation, licensing, and scope of practice, including discipline. And that's where we need to kind of stay focused and not get kind of looking out at the other area unless we're able to address that legislatively.
So, Dr. Marianne, would you help me with restating the motion, and then we can vote?
Yeah. So first, I want to make it clear that the program is already in existence, and they have been for some time admitting 64 students twice a year. So that will remain. What they're asking for is an additional cohort. And what I think you're saying is that you want to start them on a lower number for their additional cohort
That
of
is
24. Is that correct?
That is correct. I believe
Okay.
it was an additional 24 from their existing number.
Yeah, they're asking for 64 and you're proposing 24 for the additional cohort. Yes?
Yes, twice a year.
We can't do twice a year. They're only requesting once a year. They're already approved to do 64 students twice a year. They're asking for a third group to start 3 times a year of 64. So the most we can do is change the number of the additional cohort.
Then, yes, thank you for clarifying that. I was under the understanding that it was twice a year. So we can accept the, if we can motion for the 24.
Okay. I just want to make sure you understand, because they do right now and have been, I think for all the time they've been in existence, 10 years, they have been admitting 64 students twice a year. So they want to add a third admission cycle of 64, but you're saying you would like their third admission cycle to be 24. So they have 2 twice a year, they're going to enroll 64. Once a year, they're going to enroll 24. And then they're going to come back to the board. They will have to come back to the board to ask for an increase if they want to go beyond 24 for that third group.
Thank you. I think I need assistance with the board on that, because I was thinking that it was just adding to that. I know where Dolores feels like, and but I think adding 64 is where the board is concerned. The board members are concerned, and I am too. But I think I read this one multiple times, but I guess I did. Thank you, Dr. Marianne, for explaining that. I don't think the board, I think we, I guess, we can just see what the board says on the motion that we have then.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you what I believe the motion is. I believe the motion is to accept changes to an approved nursing program, Concordia University Irvine Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, to admit a third cohort of 24 students once a year and return to the board in 1 year for a request of additional students up to 64.
Yes.
Susan, are you willing to accept the changes to the?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, Susan's going to second. So we have Jovita as a first, Susan as a second. Reza, do we need to go back out to public comment?
If we've done public comment on this specific agenda item, then I think that covers it.
Okay, thank
I don't
you.
know if the school would still request the 24 in lieu of the 64 if 64 is not on the table, but so I don't know if you want to hear from them, but
Absolutely. Cher, would you like to say anything else?
Hey, Jovita, you're thinking outside the box there. We absolutely are willing to start out with a smaller number. That was our intent anyway, to start out with 24 and then work our way up. So we will start there and then come back and get our 64. That is acceptable. Thank you.
And Ms. Cheryl, if the board could ask you, with the schools that actually spoke in public comment, I know that you said that you do work with your competitors, but if there can be a more, well, if we could urge you to collaborate, and for a lack of a better word, not step on each other's toes, if you can assist us in that way.
Absolutely. It's very difficult with the ADN and BSN because it's kind of, some of it is out of our control. Many of the hospitals prefer a BSN prepared nurse. And so we're seeing that some of that is out of our hands. Obviously, we want to work well with all of our programs, but some of it is out of our hands as the demand at the hospital level, when they're accepting the schools and the students there, they're looking for BSN students. And I think that's where the issue is many times. But I appreciate that, and absolutely we will.
Yeah, I hear you. I know our hospital, they did that for 1 year and they lost all of the, I think like 80% of the new grads that were BSN because they were no longer considered quote unquote new grads after 6-9 months. And so they left us in the hospital, realized that they needed somebody that lived in that area. So they were willing to take ADN prepared and have them promise that they would get their BSN within the 2 years. So I know that LA is a different species, if I may say that, but because of course they have more competition, students have to compete for if they want to stay in that area. But I know that other hospitals are willing to do that, as mine is. Thank you for accepting that collaboration with the ADM programs.
I just have one, I would just like to clarify something. Are we talking about 24 going through a year, 2 years into this program? Or is it just this 24, this one time?
It would continue. It would start at 24. So they were doing twice a year, 64.
Yeah.
They want to go to 3 times a year, 64, but they would have 2 at 64, 1 at 24, and then keep going 3
Okay.
times a year, come back in a year and ask for an enrollment increase to 64.
Okay, thank you, Marianne.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. We appreciate your patience because the numbers.
I know it's difficult.
I guess I misunderstood them too, and I read this again this morning. So thank you for that.
Okay, Are we ready to go to a vote? Any more comments, questions?
I believe we're ready.
Okay. So Dolores Trujillo votes yes. Susan Naranjo? Jovita Dominguez?
Jovita votes yes.
Imelda?
If we're going outside of the box, thank you.
And Betty? Okay. Motion carries majority.
Thank you
Okay.
very much. Would you like me to continue with 9.3.4?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Agenda item 9.3.4, discussion and possible action regarding the acceptance of changes to an approved program, Stanbridge University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program. This would be a substantive change and an enrollment increase. Again, this is the same as Concordia. They are an established program, they're a new program, but they are established, and they are looking to increase their enrollment. So Stanbridge University is requesting an enrollment increase of 2 of their campuses. One of the campuses is in Orange County and one is in Los Angeles. Orange County currently enrolls 30 students 3 times a year for 90 students annually. The request is to increase by 10 to 40 students 4 times a year. So instead of 3 times, 4 times a year for 160 annually. This is an additional 70 students every year. The Los Angeles campus currently enrolls 35 students 4 times a year for 140 students. Their request is 40 students 4 times a year for 160. So they want an additional 20 students annually. NEC data research suggests that the Los Angeles region of California consisting of Los Angeles, Orange, and Ventura has a growing supply of registered nursing due to expansion of local RN education programs and satellite campuses. Projections of supply and demand through 2035 indicate that although a shortage may exist now, it is likely to dissipate due to this rapid growth with a possible surplus of RNs in the future. Mary Jane Rosenblatt is the nursing education consultant, and Minerva Valdemar is the program director. If you could please move them to panelists, please, BRN moderator. And this program has also updated their executive summary. So I will direct you to their updated summary and also to the nursing education consultant AIS, which has the details of the program and a link to this data.
Thank you, Dr. McCarthy. And I just confirm what Dr. McCarthy shared, that there was an updated executive summary submitted with the materials for this meeting.
So Minerva, are you, I'm looking to see if she's on yet.
Yes,
She may not. Are you there?
Yes,
Or
I'm
is she
here.
not? Oh, hello, Minerva. Welcome. Would you
Thank
like to
you.
speak, please?
Yes, I would like to first of all thank the board and Ms. Rosenblatt. And I also would like to let you know that I am joined by our president, Mr. Wiraseria, who would also like to provide comments. Regarding the request for enrollment increase, starting with Los Angeles, what we're doing here is maximizing the clinical sites that we are currently using. And as already mentioned, it is an increase of 20 per year. In Orange County, from a current enrollment pattern of 3 times 30 to 4 times 40 for an additional 70 per year. And this is based on the report that we provided in our executive summary. And our president here, Mr. Wiraseria, would like to provide additional comments.
Is he with you, Minerva, or is he?
He is. He is actually trying to be elevated. If he could be given access, please.
We're looking for him.
I believe he's joined already. Let me see.
Well,
I
it's
see him
that.
as an attendee with his hand raised.
Yes, of course. But we remember we have to find them on the backside and put them up. So thank you for your patience. Board moderator, I believe they're telling me he has his hand raised.
No,
Thank you.
He's promoted.
Thank you so much.
Good
Dr.
morning to the
Wisteri?
board. Thank you so much for your time, and would like to thank Ms. Mary Jane Rosenblatt for her time and assistance as well. We would like to go ahead and begin. I think there has been a lot said about the clinical displacements. We'd like to just give a quick summary as far as the program is concerned. We have an average pass rate of 99% over 5 years. We're CCNE accredited through 2029. We've been ranked as the 10th most diverse university in the United States with over 750 students. We've received awards for excellence in student services. We have a student default rate of under 2%. And I'd like to mention that we were the first to bring synthetic human cadavers to the West Coast. We were the first to use large-scale virtual reality to complement what our students are learning, not only in general education classes, but also in some of the med-surg classes. We would like to begin by stating emphatically there is no clinical displacement with what we are asking. I would like to mention that we have partnerships with HMC's hospitals, Memorial Care, Tenet, KPC. We're working with North American Rockport Providence. It is really important to understand that we have worked since May of last year to get our students back on the ground. Our students have been experiencing bedside care since then. I'd like to clarify for this particular motion that we're only asking for 5 more students in Los Angeles. We currently have groups of 4 students at hospitals. In one of those groups, there's only 5 students. So we're not asking for any additional clinical space in Los Angeles. We're simply saying for that group to go from 5 to 10. It's a very, very humble and reasonable ask. There is no clinical displacement. The clinical sites exist already. And we're simply saying, instead of having 5 students in that group, could we go to 10? The clinical sites are established, they have been verified, and we're simply asking for 5 more students in Los Angeles. In Orange County, we were approved in 2014. We have not requested for an enrollment increase since then. This request is reflecting the need not only now, but in the future that our clinical partners are talking of. During the COVID crisis, I had a CNO call us at 5 o'clock on Saturday crying and saying she doesn't have the staff to turn her patients over in the beds. Could we help? We had over 100 of our students within 48 hours respond and come to their aid within the hospital system. More importantly, again, emphasizing we're asking for 5 students only in Los Angeles for an existing clinical group. There is no clinical displacement. The clinical sites have already been assigned. In Orange County, this is a 3-year program with 14 months of general education classes. By the time these students hit clinical, it will be the fall of 2023. So for all the concerns that have been mentioned in regards to the transition from COVID to post-COVID, our students will not be at a clinical site until 2023. During the COVID time, we opened 2 hospitals for the general nursing education community. One in Los Angeles, actually 2 in Los Angeles that were closed during the time, and one that was closed for 6 years. So we have added to that clinical capacity. So we would like to really emphasize again, for our Los Angeles request, there is no clinical displacement. We're simply asking to take a group that's at 5 to 10 that's already at hospital sites. And in Orange County, we haven't requested anything since 2014. These students will not hit clinical until the fall of 2023. The concerns that are being raised right now about the present, we have not experienced, nor will this request impact that particular concern because we're looking at the fall of 2023. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your last name.
It's hard to do so. Just call me Yaz.
Okay, yes. It's very impressive. with your NCLEX scores of 98, 99%. So I have a few questions.
Yes, ma'am.
You've had a couple of other campuses ask for enrollment increases this year.
Correct.
So what were those increases, your Irvine campus and your Riverside campus?
No, we have not requested an increase in Orange County, Irvine.
Okay.
And
So what other increases have you put forward this year?
we requested a additional campus in Riverside, and that was approved for 4 starts of 40 students. And again, that has no bearing on what we're asking. It's a completely different geography that we're asking in Los Angeles. We're not displacing anybody. It's 5 students in an existing group.
I
So the
get that
sites
it's 5
exist.
students. Yeah, thank you.
If I may, Ms. Trujillo, when the Los Angeles campus, which is located in Alhambra, was initially opened, the request from the board was to start at a lower attendance. This was revisited as planned earlier this year for the original request. So perhaps that is what you're thinking of?
I remember Stanbridge coming forward.
Yes.
Just trying to think.
You are correct.
Campus.
Yes, that was, and we've spoken earlier today about revisiting programs. And that was the process that took place earlier this year with the Alhambra campus. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
Sure.
I'm just concerned, we have community colleges that are very impacted and they're trying to get clinical space for their students. And then we have not just you, but private colleges coming forward asking for enrollment increases, which could impact the community college getting into the clinical space also.
Mr. Hill, I'd like to reiterate that there is no impact to any college right now with our request in Los Angeles. 2 years ago, when we came before the board, we requested for 4 starts of 40, and we were told to start with 3 starts of 30, and then to gradually increase. And we gradually increased to 4 starts of 35. We're simply going back as you had asked us to do so some years ago and come back in a sequential manner. And at this point, there is no one who'll be displaced because we're not asking for any additional clinical sites. We already have the students assigned to 4 sites. We're simply saying, take from 5 students to 10. So that really will not impact anybody in Los Angeles. In Orange County, again, we have not requested anything extra since 2014. This particular request will not have students in clinical until the fall of 2023. And I do want to emphasize that in addition to what everybody has talked about today, we're using bedside nursing and acute sites. We've not had a challenge. We're also very open to working with the board on vSIMs from Laerdal, on using Shadow Health, in addition to extensive simulation capabilities that the university hosts, in tandem with what we use uniquely we're one of the few educational facilities in the country that use both synthetic and human cadavers in the training of nurses. We complement that with virtual reality, telehealth. We have a very sophisticated system, and this would not in any way impact any clinical site until the fall of 2023. And we've opened 2 hospitals to the larger community with our outreach efforts, one in Alhambra, one in LA. So I really want to emphasize your concerns. I respect what you've said. But there is absolutely no impact on anyone in Los Angeles, and in Orange County, there won't be until the fall of 2023, ma'am. And there is no displacement. We have added the sites and we have the partnerships. And to the previous commentary from Concordia University, our goal is to work in partnership. So we absolutely take very strong consideration and hear what you're saying, and that's the pathway forward, I believe, for us into the future.
Well, thank you for reassuring us that there's no impact. We are hearing otherwise. So we have a conflict in data between you and us, but nonetheless, I understand that it's 5 an increase of 5, so 10 total, correct?
It'll be 20 total, ma'am.
20 total.
Correct.
How many students are assigned to each of your clinical instructors?
The board ratio is 10. Depending, COVID has resulted in various shifts in that number. Some sites have gone down to 8, some have gone down to as low as 6, some at 7. But the normal ratio is 1 to 10. So in Los Angeles, we would essentially be having 4 groups, and we're at this point simply taking one group from 5 to 10 students. That group already exists, has a clinical site, there's no displacement, there's no additional clinical required.
All right. Does the board have any?
Clarification, Dolores, the board does not have a ratio for clinical at all. We do not set it at 1 to 10. That is a common misconception. And in our regulations, we do not have a ratio. What we have is says in section 1424K, the student teacher ratio in a clinical setting shall be based on the following criteria. 1, acuity of the patient's needs. 2, objectives of the learning experiences. 3, class level of the students. 4, geographic placement of the students. 5, teaching methods. And 6, requirements established by the clinical facility. So our board does not, and I'll repeat that, does not make a clinical ratio for faculty to students in a clinical setting.
Thank you. Does the board have any other comments or questions?
Excuse me, Dolores, I just want to make sure it's clear that the request is for 2 separate campuses. I know we've talked extensively about the additional 20 students annually at Los Angeles, but there is also the request for an additional 70 students annually in Orange County. I just want to make sure that you know it's a double, there's 2 campuses involved in this request.
So a total of 90 students?
Yes, 20 additional annually in Los Angeles and 70 additional annually in Orange County is the request.
To Ms. Dolores' concerns, if you prefer, ma'am, again, I'd like to emphasize these students do not hit clinical in Orange County until the fall of 2023. We'll be happy to reduce that request to 30 students to assuage your concerns and make it 4 starts of 30 instead of 4 starts of 40. It's similar to what you requested many years ago for us in Los Angeles, and to go gradually. And if that is something that'll allay your concerns, again, we're affirming that we have the additional sites, and this doesn't begin until 2023. We're willing to make that change to 4 starts of 30 instead of 4 starts of 40.
I'm sorry. Thank you for that. Could you clarify for me though? So Orange County, you are willing, is this Orange County or it's Orange County, right? That you're talking about?
Correct.
You would be willing. So right now I see that you have 35 students 4 times a year. And what would you be willing to do? You were asking for, you have 35 4 times a year, and you were asking for 40 4 times a year. And what would you be willing to do?
So, Ms. McCarthy, we have 30 3 times a year, and we are asking for 40 4 times a year. We're willing to go to 30 4 times a year.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Okay, so you would increase then, as far as instead of 33 times a year, you would agree to 34 times a year.
That is correct.
Okay.
I believe that's a reasonable ask.
I make a motion that we accept that.
I will second your motion, Betty.
Be on the floor. Isa?
Please, at your if you don't mind, let me clarify. So the motion would be to accept changes to an approved program, a substantial change for Stanbridge University Baccalaureate degree program enrollment increase. That would be Orange County, 30 students 3 times a year, and Los Angeles campus would be 40 students 4 times a year.
Does, could you confirm your proposal for the Orange County campus?
So we'll be looking to go from 35 students 4 times a year in Los Angeles to 40 students 4 times a year in Los Angeles, reflecting the 5 additional per cohort. And in Orange County, going from 30 3 times a year to 30 4 times a year, amending our proposed 40 4 times a year, a substantial decrease from what we're asking.
Thank you very much.
Is that what I said, Mary Jane, or do I have it wrong? Because we have to have it correct in the, you know, in the minutes and everything.
We do.
Okay, so it is Orange County 3 times a year at 30, and Los Angeles 40 students 4 times a year.
No, Orange County would be 34 times a year.
It's 4 times a year.
4 times a year. Thank you. Yes. 34 times a year. Okay, Orange County 30 students 4 times a year. Los Angeles 40 students 4 times a year.
That is correct.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
County, that's still an increase, isn't it?
They're both increases. They're asking for an enrollment increase. Yes.
Yeah. So you were at 35 4 times a year, correct, in LA?
Correct.
And now you're asking for 40 4 times a year.
Correct.
An increase of 20.
Correct.
A year. Okay. And then Orange County, you have 30 3 times a year, correct?
Correct.
So that's 90 students. You are asking for 40 4 times a year, which is 160.
Well, we amended that request, Mr. Here, to alleviate your your concerns, and brought it down to 34 times a year.
So it would now be at 120.
Correct.
So really, you'd go from 90 to 120, correct?
Correct.
Versus 160. Okay. All right. Any comments or questions for the board? In lieu of making a motion right now, can we open to public comment, please?
I believe there's a motion on the floor by Betty, seconded by Imelda, to accept with the adjustment of the numbers.
Okay. So
I believe we can go to public comment.
Yeah, we can go to public comment. Aaron, moderator, can you open to public comment, please?
We'll be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give you a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members of the public to type in, "I would like to make a comment." Izzy Swindler would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
Wrong issue earlier, but again, thank you for letting me speak. It's Izzy, the Legislative Director for Assemblyman Chen. I'll make this brief, and I just wanted to let you know that I'm hearing of current and projected need that is dire and that the legislature supports need of the community for more RNs. So whatever we can do to be helpful, we absolutely support and stand with Stanbridge. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Steckler would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
Hello, this is Mary Steckler again, Associate Dean of Health Sciences at Santa Ana College, Community College. And I would strongly oppose this request. And I just want to share that, you know, yes, we need to get more RNs out there. We certainly do, and I totally agree with all that. But let's look at the community college level of the ADN nursing that needs. I just had 600 applications come into my office for 40 spots for a clinical in spring of 22, 600 spots. So there are students out there that can't afford a private BSN education at this point, and we need to support them at the ADN level. You ask for 10 or even 5, and you say you're not impacting. Well, I disagree with that. We have been impacted from Fountain Valley, Orange Coast Memorial, and Hoag, which are what some of you are requesting. And they say, oh, well, you know, we just can't accommodate you right now. When I go onto those clinical sites, what do I see? I see the private schools taking over. I'm out there. I've been out there for 40 years and I see it. So when you say, oh, it's not going to impact you until 2023, that is wrong. That is incorrect. It will impact us, and it is impacting. And I feel nobody reached out to any of us at the community college level to ask us for our input to this. Stanbridge, you did not. Concordia, you did not. And this is totally unfair, and I totally oppose it. Thank you.
Hospital, and we're not at Fountain Valley Hospital. We have 3 shifts a year at Orange Coast Memorial.
David Batista would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, David.
Thank you, everybody, to the board for allowing me a few moments to address. It's been very informative this morning. I am the Executive Vice President for AHMC Hospital Systems. I've been a hospital administrator since 1990, and again, appreciate the comments and the information today. AHMC, we own 10 hospitals in California, 9 of which are in Southern California. We've had a very amazing relationship with Stanbridge University for the last 5 or 6 years. They've been very interactive with us in working on curriculum and also thinking outside the box. We have worked with Cal Baptist, East LA College, Azusa Pacific, a number of public and private universities, but I will say that the graduates and instructors from Stanbridge have been very engaging to us to help us accomplish mutual goals. I just want to make a comment to say that we definitely do have, from a hospital administrator perspective, an immediate need. The pandemic has brought unprecedented turnover. Some of our quarterly statistics have been 17 to 21% of our full-time RNs, which is very, very challenging, not the least of which has been early retirements due to the pandemic. In the immediate state we're in, we are definitely scrambling a lot of our hospitals to staff on a daily basis. Not only are we paying overtime, but we're paying crisis pay, sometimes $600 to $700 per shift. And that actually affects quality. It's a concern of mine when we have so much staff that's actually being pressed to work 4 and 5 shifts a week. Definitely the industry has changed. A lot of conversation on this call. I would love to be a part of anything to help find needs. We are an integrated health system. We have over 1.4 million capitated lives throughout the state of California we take prearranged risk for. So I will say some of the opportunity within hospital systems like ours is not specifically just to acute nursing, but also to post-discharge clinics, chronic disease management, other things that we work with universities like Stanbridge to try to think about how to give a better educational experience to the nurses and what is really coming. I do applaud the conversation about simulation and thinking out of the box by one of the board members. Hospital systems like mine would love to be able to have not a competitive spirit conversation about what additional spaces should be given, but how we can work smarter and more collaboratively together. Lastly, I just want to make a mention that we do not see this from my hospital system's perspective as a short-term issue just with COVID. Most hospital systems, we do economic budget forecasting and business planning at every fiscal year. And the aging of the staff and the workforce is something that has always been something we've been mindful of, but has been spoken about before to no fault of anybody, but certainly an opportunity for us is to try to find a way to reduce the amount of nurses that are leaving the industry and trying to find other positions for them for the future of healthcare and more preventative care. But again, lastly, I just want to say that we have not displaced anybody in our relationship with Stanbridge. We want to be open to everybody and to continue to allow not just our hospitals, but other hospitals in the region to be properly and safely staffed, number one. And number two, how to work collaboratively to provide a better level of education for all the students that come through our facilities. Open to any questions if there's any questions for me.
Thank you, David. Alice Martinegra would like to make a comment. 1 second, please.
Ms. Malter, hang on. I didn't realize that was on mute. I just have one question for Mr. Batista.
Sorry, hold on, David.
Yes, Mr. Hill.
Hi.
Good morning.
I would just like to know if you reach out to the public schools in the area, the ADN programs, the community college. Do you reach out to any of them?
I do. When I was CEO of Garfield Medical Center in Monterey Park, we had East LA College on our board. Currently in our Riverside campus, we actually did fund the simulation lab at Riverside Community College. It was a $300,000 investment by our facility and worked very closely with Riverside Community College. We are competitive, Mr. Hill. I will tell you, we want to support the community system, but also we want to allow for some of the private facilities to also have a bit of an opportunity to provide some of the best BSNs that we can get. We'd love to be magnet status in a lot of our facilities, which is something we talked about years ago. But we are not, we try to be very agnostic. I'm more accurately trying to highlight that hospital systems like ours are not approached enough by both community and private sector facilities and how to improve the education and also improve the amount of students that we can educate. They're very few and far between. I will tell you, I would love to be approached more frequently by both the private and public sector on how to work together.
It sounds like maybe some of the community college ADN programs could also help with that need or that shortage. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Again, if you go to Riverside Community College, you will see the Sim Lab has Parkview Community Hospital, one of our facilities, proudly pronounced over the board there. I do not want to underestimate their value, but I also want to more firmly acknowledge the fact that despite what's being said out there, I'm in our facilities on weekends. I know the shortages we have, and for the board probably knows that as well, but there is a tremendous need for nurses in the next 7 to 10 years in this state.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alice Martinegra would like to make a comment, please. 1 second.
Hi, good morning. This is Alice Montanagara calling from Golden West College. It's a community college here in Huntington Beach, California. Just to go back to, I'm not going to repeat my comment. What we're asking the board is that to please reconsider any increase of enrollment in the Orange County region until next year. We are just coming back into the hospitals. I understand there's a need of nurses. Trust me, my CNOs are calling me every day too. But we do not have enough students who are able to complete education and be able to work as a CNA or anything else. And one of the concern is really in clinical placement. You said earlier you were approving for 24. Now Stanbridge is asking for another 30 in the Orange County region. That's a total of 54 students coming to our area. That we have a shortage of faculty here at the community college level. If the private schools are coming in, even if it's a matter of increasing 5 more, that's a whole nother clinical group, or even adding to the existing clinical group. We can't even find faculty. We're bounded by our fiscal constraints that our legislators and our chancellor's office has given to us as to the ratio of how much we can actually place in a clinical placement. We don't have the luxury like a private college to staff a group of 5 students. And so to add more students to the region, I understand they need to go to the hospital, but it also impacts the quality. Somebody on the board asked the question of why the nurses are not staying in the hospital. Why? Because they're not prepared. We at the ADN level, we take our students to the hospital so they can be prepared in the bedside. They work in the community, and our students come back to our college, hopefully in the future, to become faculty because they live in the region and they serve our regional hospitals. So for us not to be able to find faculty because they're going to private schools, and for us not being able to have enough clinical experiences because we coexist with another school at the same time at the hospital on the same day of clinical rotation, that is something we are enduring every day. We don't even know if the hospitals are going to stay open in February because of what's happening with COVID. So we implore and ask you respectfully to please reconsider on behalf of the local community colleges. And yes, I heard the legislators here too, and we will be asking our legislators to work with us because we're constrained by our fiscal barriers and fiscal restraints from the public sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Deanna Jung would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Oh, I guess we lost Miss Jung. Oh, hold on. Let's see. Dr. Brenda Chan would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Dr. Chan.
Hear me?
Yes, go ahead, doctor.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm Dr. Brenda Chan, Nursing Program Director for East Los Angeles College. I would like to point out the Stanbridge University Los Angeles location is actually in Alhambra, which is 4 miles from East Los Angeles College, and also 6 miles from Pasadena City College. So both are the ADN programs. My concern is, actually, I do want to thank Mr. Bautista because we have a lot of clinical placement at Murray Park Hospital. They have been very accommodating, but we are also hoping to, for the future, to have more clinical sites at Alhambra Hospital and also Garfield Hospital. So with the Stanbridge request to increase even 5 spots, it's not an immediate threat, but I do have concerns. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Judy Corliss would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Hi. I act as a former board member of the BRN, and I understand the concerns on all sides. There are 2 issues that we've always dealt with that I think really this board could consider going to the legislature about. One is the simulation increase. We've tried to bring that forward for many, many years and follow the National Council, State Boards of Nursing's recommendations to increase it, like most of our states across the nation. That would help, one. And then number 2, I think the community colleges are constrained by faculty wages, and that could go to the legislature, and maybe that would help solve some of the issues that we continue to face year after year. I started back in 2009, and we haven't settled these two issues. So I would recommend that those two really be placed on the concerns of this current board. And thank you so much for all the discussion on all sides. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Board President Trujillo, there are no other public requests for comment. Would you like me to close this window?
Did we hear from Lisa Zapolo?
Oh, hold on, let me look.
She has a comment in there. I don't know if she was trying to get on.
No, she just asked a question.
Deanna Jung back up.
Nope, she did not. She did not reconnect.
I know that she is a program director that is from one of our pre-licensure nursing programs out there, and I believe BSN.
Nope, she is not on the list, or she's not in the audience anymore.
Oh,
Thank you for checking.
thank you.
Okay.
If there's no one else, yes, we can close the window. So can we repeat the motion?
The motion for 9.3.4 is, the motion on the floor is to accept changes to an approved nursing program, Stanbridge University Baccalaureate Degree Nursing, substantive change, enrollment increase.
Okay, that's the end.
Well, that's the end. I mean, we do have the amounts, which I can put in there, but that usually doesn't go into the thing. But it is Orange County, 30 students 4 times a year, and Los Angeles campus, 40 students 4 times a year.
Who seconded the motion?
Imelda?
All right, so if there's no other questions or comments from the board? All right, so we'll take it to a vote. Dolores Trujillo votes no, because I feel like we need to take it to the board in February with better data. So I'm voting no at the time. Elizabeth Woods? Imelda?
Imelda, yes.
Joita? Susan?
Susan, yes.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you.
Dolores,
Yes.
before we move on to 9.3.5, I would like to ask that 9.3.5 be the last agenda item and that we go to a lunch break for my staff.
Sure.
And for board members as well. And then when we return, it has been asked to renumber the agenda. And that would allow for our enforcement and legislative staff to report out, and then they can wrap up their work. They've been waiting on this for two days. And that would be a great thing to be able to give to them. And then that way, when we get to the agenda item on 1426, I believe that's going to be a lengthy discussion, and my legislative enforcement staff do not have to be on the line and waiting for that.
That's fine, Lori. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that consideration.
So we will go to lunch after the discussion of Union Tech College.
Okay, thank you. Agenda item 9.3.5, discussion and possible action regarding acceptance of changes to an approved program, substantive change for Unitech College Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program, and addition of a new campus or location. Unitech College is requesting an additional campus in Sacramento, California. Unitech currently has campuses in Fremont, Bakersfield, and Concord. Enrollment request is 40 students 3 times a year for an annual enrollment on the new Sacramento campus of 120 students. Data research for the Sacramento region of California consists of the counties of Sacramento and Yuba City, has a growing supply of registered nurses, due to the expansion of local RN education programs and satellite campuses of schools from other regions. The projected supply and demand through 2035 indicate that RN shortages may exist in 2018 and beyond over the next decade. However, oversupply of RNs is possible by 2023. I am the NEC for this program. They have updated their executive summary as well in their in your packet, and their agenda item summary, which I prepared for you, has the details about the other details about the campus. Today with me is Dr. Abdel Yosef, who is the program director. And they have also requested that their assistant director, Stephanie Robinson, be available to make comments. I would ask the board moderator to elevate these two people, please.
Thank you, Dr. Maria.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Dr.
Thank
Yosef.
you. And I hate to be between you and your lunch. I know it's tough, but I'm going to try to make it as easy as possible. I appreciate Dr. McCarthy's work on the data and research. And I want to say that the last statement about the projection of supply and demand, and it says that RN shortage may exist in 2018, and there's a possible of surplus in 2035. This report was written in 2018 by Dr. Joanne Spitz, and it was based on statistics and data was collected in 2016 and 2017. So, and does not factor any impact of COVID on the workforce at all. So I want to read one statement from a most recent report that came out from UCSF. And the report talks about, and I'm opening a quote now saying, in 2020, 26% of registered nurses between the age of 55 and 64 said they plan to leave the field in the next 2 years, up from 12% in 2018. So now we're up 26%, they will leave. The author said this was most likely from burnout and the need for reduced COVID-19 exposure to at-risk family members. So this is from September 6, 2021 UCSF report. So this is one point. The other point I want to make is that when we look at the RN shortage areas, according to Joanne Spetz's report, she said that the main shortcoming of targeting fixed numbers of RNs and fixed numbers of population, we are not reflecting the unique population healthcare system need. So I want to talk about the RN workforce age and also the population age in Sacramento. So the RN workforce age factor, according to the BRN report, there is 27,000 licensed RNs in Sacramento. 22% of those are above the age of 60. That was in 2018. So now they're about 63 or 64 and or more. And that was about 6,000 of those nurses. So based on the Dr. Joanne Smith's statement, these people will leave the workforce within the 5 years. So our graduates will not really come to the market until 2024 and become employed. So our graduates reflect 2% of that 6,000 that we're going to lose over the next 5 or 6 years. When we talk about the population age, in Sacramento, 20% currently, and that's based on California Department of Finance. 20% of the population is above the age 60. And also elderly population over the age of 60 is projected to increase in Sacramento by 187% between 2010 and 2060. And this is California Department of Finance 2017 report. So this is our two major factors we need to consider when we look at the shortage and the workforce. Also, we need to look at the regions and I looked at the study and how the RNSA regions been published. One of the assumptions the report used, they used the RN home address to list that the RN employed in that county. And that's, of course, not an accurate assumption because I could live in a county, but I work in another county around it. So this is important to look at. Sacramento surrounded by counties. There are 6 counties in the area. 4 of these counties are in the medium shortage or moderate shortage, based on the report. Employer in Sacramento County need and want to train and hire our nurses. We have 20 clinical affiliation agreements with sites within the RNSA area, that's outside Sacramento lines, which are mapped out for you in the report that was provided. Unitec also examined its past and current vocational nursing students at the Sacramento campus. More than 35% of the students come from areas beyond the Sacramento County lines. 62% of our graduates were employed by outside of Sacramento County lines, such as Stockton, Tracy, and other counties. Unitec proposed BSN program has already established these clinical affiliations, and I have Dr. Stephanie speak about that and all these facts. One other fact I want to mention that so far this year, there are 22,584 RN jobs in Sacramento open. In September 2021, there was an 88% increase in the number of RN job opening compared to January of 2021. Just in 2021, 88% increase, and that's from burning glass, labor inside. So at the same time, the number of test takers in Sacramento have decreased by 2.4%. And the number of applicants, there was, according to the BRN dashboard of the Sacramento region, out of 1,930 qualified applicants, the schools currently denied 66% of those, which is about 1,286 applicants were denied to enroll in the RN program in Sacramento due to the limited seats. So in summary, I want to say that to support the need for the additional BSN in Sacramento, please consider the following facts. Sacramento has the fastest growing population in California. 20% of the population above the age of 60. The projected elderly population age, the projected elderly population increase is 187% increase from 2010 to that are above the age of 60. So 6,000 will retire before our first students graduates. And there was a net out migration of 362 RNs that left Sacramento region between 2016 and 2018. At the same time, as I mentioned, the number of test takers went down 2.4% in the last 2 years. And at this time, I would like to give a chance for Dr. Stephanie Robinson, because she's the one who worked closely on this project with Dr. McCarthy to make sure we have all the resources for our proposed program in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Yosef. Stephanie, are you available?
Hear me?
We can. Go ahead. Thank you.
Great. Yes, my name is Dr. Stephanie Robinson. I'm the regional dean for our BSN programs in Fremont, Bakersfield, and Concord, and have oversight with Sacramento's work that we're trying to put forward. There was a feasibility study that was done, and we submitted it to our NEC in April, which is Dr. Mary Ann McCarthy. And we've already invested a tremendous amount of resources and always following the BRN requirements. For the facility itself, it was actually moved forward in two different phases. The first phase was really to look at how we could add the 2,100 square feet of space and make sure that we had new computer and lecture, virtual desktop infrastructure, classrooms for obstetrics and pediatrics, and also intensive care medical surgical patients. Our obstetric lab also allows for med-surg geriatric simulation to occur as well. For our second phase, it was important for our expansion to begin where we secured nearly 12,000 square feet of physical space, and this included 3,774 square feet of simulation and virtual reality learning that would occur where our student learning experience would be lifelike, no floating menus or point and click interactions, only intuitive, realistic hand gestures and interactions that would simulate direct patient care. We also have a basic skills lab in this area where active learning can occur in the classroom and student collaboration can occur in a study room. We also have 2 new computer labs, lecture classrooms. We have a staff lounge and offices for the BSN assistant director, and also for faculty, administrative assistant, and support staff to make sure we can run the program efficiently. Dr. Mary Ann McCarthy inspected the campus in July of 2021 and was pleased with all the student resources and facilities and the hard work that our team put together to make this possible. So we do appreciate her. For our clinical environment, Unitech College continued teaching during COVID and did not stop to provide that clinical experience that our students needed to progress through the program at all 3 of our campuses. We have visited and met with clinical sites and worked incredibly hard to secure 56 clinical affiliation agreements, and we have 52 EDP 18 forms completed so far. And we have worked very hard not to displace any existing educational programs, and our clinical partners are really in dire need for our BSN students and have informed us that we need to help with their shortages in staffing and the delivery of patient care to the units that would meet their patients' needs. We have various acute care facilities. 14 have been identified. We have 1 acute care state correctional hospital, and we also have mental health and med-surg rotations with 10 acute care hospital medical centers. I have all the resources to start the program, and we have the building, and we have clinicals and clinical sites that are established, and we're very excited to be able to move things forward with the BRN's approval of our Sacramento site. Also, to let you know, we did establish some ground information, and that had to do with the survey of our vocational nursing students. Part of our due diligence before even starting this project, we conducted a survey with all of our LVN graduates from our Sacramento campus. The student population is a diverse, underserved, and first-generation college graduate. So our NCLEX LVN pass rates for Sacramento in 2020 was 91%. In 2019, it was 95%. In 2018, it was 93%. The Sacramento campus has been awarded Schools of Distinction Award by ACCSC in 2014-2015, and again in 2019-2020 for its continual commitment to the vigors of accreditation and producing educational programs of the highest quality. In responding to the needs of our LVN students and graduates, they have told us they want a BSN program in our survey, and we received 160 responses. 91% of those, or 140, responded that they would like to become an RN. 84%, or 133, responded they would apply for a pre-licensure BSN program if the Unitech Sacramento campus starts the program. So for us, we have several of our clinical sites that are major institutions like Kaiser, Sutter, Dignity Health, and Adventist, knowing that we are able to provide the education that we need to have a BSN program. Thank you for your opportunity to let me speak today.
Thank you both. I just want to clarify, though, something that you said for the board, Stephanie, in that this is an established program already, and they are adding an additional site, which is a substantive change, but not a feasibility study. So they did not have to submit a feasibility study in order to do that. I know there was some confusion earlier about this. They are not a brand new program. They're just adding a site. So just to make sure that that is clear. And Stephanie, of the 52 clinical sites you said you have, are those all 52 for the Sacramento campus?
Yes, strictly for Sacramento. That is correct.
Thank you.
And may I comment about that, Dr. McCarthy? I think what Dr. Robinson meant to say that in our application for the major curriculum change, we submitted an application which was about 70 pages, and part of it, it says the purpose and the demand. And we did technically our own version of the feasibility study.
I agree with you.
40 pages.
I agree with you.
Very intense feasibility study. If you know, you have seen our reports multiple times. So we invest in research. We have our own researcher, as well as we communicate with UCSF at a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't disagree with you. I just want to make sure the board understands, because we've had extensive discussion yesterday and today about the difference of a brand new program that has a feasibility study and the fact that you went above and beyond, and I thank you for that. But that is not required, and therefore I just want to make sure that it's clear that you're not a brand new program, therefore having to do the feasibility study. Thank you so much.
Sorry, everyone, I lost connection there for a minute. What my question is, where in Sacramento are you located? Sacramento campus?
Stephanie, you want to give the address? You're muted.
You're on mute, Stephanie. No problem. We all take turns being on mute.
I'm sorry, I don't have that address. I can pull it and then get that back to you.
Thank you.
And again, how much of an increase you're asking for?
This is a new location, so yes. We have 3 starts of 40 each. And the address is 111 Hoey Avenue, Suite 300, Sacramento. The zip code is 95825.
You said 111.
4 ones, and the street name is Hoey, Howe Avenue.
Oh, Howe Avenue. Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Thank you. And you're saying 3 cohorts of 40?
Yes. 3 cohorts of 40.
For a year.
Yes.
So 120 students.
Annually. Yes.
Annually. Is there any other comments or questions from the board?
I appreciate the map, and then I also appreciate how you had all, the high, medium, and I think there was one low, and which hospitals and you place your students.
Yes.
It made it really nice to, because I don't, I guess I will get to know Sacramento more now, but it made it, you know, now I can see, I know Dignity because it's in Santa Cruz. I know it's not the same, but I appreciate the layout.
Thank you.
And then just one more question. We've been asking all the other schools, but do you compete with any of the ADN or Sac State school nurses?
Well, there is a Sac State University in Sacramento and a Sac City College too. But our strategy, the way we do clinical, we do have, we always collaborate with the community partners. We reached out to them, usually like before, like when we did Bakersfield, we were required to reach out and get a lot of support. We did that. But for this time, I think after the state audit, this procedure was changed. So we're not required or to submit or receive a letter of support, but we participate in consortium. We work with the community colleges. We make sure we do take the shifts that are usually not the typical shift for state or community college. So we do like 3 to 11. We do 7 to 7 Saturday or Sunday. Our students usually in the BSN program, mostly our graduates from the BN. So they working adults, and we try to accommodate the clinical around the evening or the weekend, and even, believe it or not, we did some labor and delivery at night shift, because that for some reason delivery happens sometimes at night, so we have that opportunity. So we have we are engaged in the community very well, and we respect our partners in the community, including the colleges and the university. And we make sure with the ADB forms that Stephanie was mentioning, it indicates the clinical partner, indicates what other schools are using that facility and how can we fit in without displacing them. And that's the EDB 18 form. If you're not familiar with it, it states that. So the clinical partners really indicate that I have Sac State or Cal State Sacramento, and they come like 8 to 11, 8 to 3 or whatever, and we come in and take the other or the other rotations that usually not popular for the community colleges. And our faculty and our students, when they enroll and when we hire faculty, they know that they're going to do weekends and evening clinical. And they agree on that from day one. So that way they know that we will be picking rotations. But as you see, we have 56 agreements, 10 hospitals, prison, community. We have a diverse and a great clinical experience for our students.
Any other comments and questions from the board? Anybody want to make a motion? Before we go to public comment, or do you want to go to public comment? This is a large amount of students released into the community up here, of 120 annually. I feel like that will compete with University of California, Sacramento, and the other community colleges up here.
And that's to answer to you, President Trujillo's comment. Again, that's why we secured 56 clinical partners, because we know it's going to be a good sized program, because the need, as I said, like 6,000 will retire over the next 5 years, and we're going to graduate 120 a year, which is 2%. So we are working, we can't do it by ourselves, and the community colleges cannot do it by themselves, and the Sac State cannot. So we work all together to help with the nursing shortage. So the resources and the campus buildup and the expansion that we had Dr. McCarthy inspect, as well as the clinical partners agreement, shows the support for that size of a campus. Thank you.
Dr. McCarthy, how many campus locations does Unitech have?
They have a campus in, sorry, you're catching me off guard. I read that today. Fremont, Bakersfield, and Concord. This would be their fourth site in Sacramento.
And Unitech was just approved 3 years ago, 4 years ago? When were they approved initially?
If I can answer that, it was 2019.
We have been an RN program for more than 12 years. We changed the curriculum to BSN in 2019. So we've been in the community for more than 12 years with a great pass rate, as Stephanie, presented.
So you mentioned that you changed to a BSN program in 2019. Have you received graduates from the BSN program?
Yes, ma'am. We got a graduates, and the first quarter we have an 85.5% from the graduates of our BSN curriculum.
And how is that compared to the ADN curriculum that you had for 12 years prior to that?
Well, we had 89 the year before and 92 the year before that. But because you know how the 85.5 was the first cohort graduated. So I think our target is to stay above in the 90. That's our goal. So I think the BSN curriculum allow us to make more positive impact on the students' outcome because of the length of the program and the ability to implement all the success strategy. So our program is very strong. We have a committed faculty, deans for every campus, in addition to Stephanie as the regional dean, and we have a national dean, and I will come as the provost. So we have a very strong academic structure for Unitech to support our students.
So just to clarify, you changed from an ADN to a BSN in 2019. You've had one graduating class of the BSN, and those NCLEX pass rates are about 85%. And then since you changed your curriculum, you opened a new campus in Bakersfield in 2019. You opened a new campus in Concord in 2020. And now in 2021, you're asking to open a new campus in the Sacramento County area. Is that correct?
That's correct. And that's based on the community need. So we go to communities that needs the most nurses. Like, for example, with Bakersfield, the San Joaquin Valley, the most shortage area. That's where we branched the second branch from Fremont, and Concord the same. We were approved in December 2020 for Concord branch. So each campus, we treat it as a separate and as a need for the community. And that's why Dr. McCarthy was complimenting our feasibility studies, or our, if you call it feasibility study, or our research to show the aging population and the aging of the workforce. And that's how we choose our locations, based on evidence base and research.
And I just want to add, although I appreciate the kudos, thank you so much. I do have to say that my job is to ensure that you meet regulation. When you submit stuff to me, there's no, I can't have any personal input as to whether you do or you don't. I just have to know, I just have to do what I need to do to evaluate what you're proposing to ensure you meet regulation in order to take you to the ELC and the board. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
So one thing as a board that I can say I'm concerned about is it sounds like you've got this set up, you've got the school, it sounds very nice. You have the clinical space. which we are not as impacted up here as the LA area, Southern California. Nonetheless, there are, these students, I'm concerned because we don't have as many hospitals. I'm concerned of them finding jobs when they come out. I mean, we're looking at 120 annually. And yes, there is a workforce retiring, but I mean, I'm 61. I work with nurses who are going to 66, 67. And your data on that workforce retiring, I think, is dated, correct? It's old. Or is it now?
Well, this is the report about this, the nurses will, this is 2020, that says 26% of the registered nurses between the age of 55 and 64 will retire in 2 years. That was 2020, so it's not dated. And one more point, President Trujillo, that in September of 2021, there was an 88% increase in the number of RN jobs opening from January 2021. And we currently have 22,584 RN job opening in Sacramento County, not factoring the counties around it, which is considered more shortage, severe shortage than Sacramento.
And I can tell you that the majority of those job openings that are around me, because I'm from the Sacramento area, are taking nurses who are experienced. Very few are taking nurses as new grads, my own hospital included. So that is my concern, that these students coming out will probably have to either go out of state or move out of their area just to find a hospital that can give them that new grad training and experience. There are job openings around me. I see that. But the majority of these hospitals want seasoned nurses, experienced nurses. Some of them say they don't have time to train because they're so busy with COVID. So I want these students to come out and have jobs.
Yes.
And 120 plus Sac State, plus the community college, plus UC Davis, I believe that will impact the area. And I'm repeating again, the majority of the jobs in this area you look at the ads, they want experienced nurses. There is no advertisement for new grads.
I have a question. Do all students want to go to the hospital levels? I know in public health throughout the state of California, there's a shortage of nurses, PHNs. So do all nurses want to go to hospitals? I wouldn't think so. There's plenty of work to go around.
Even for clinics, they have to have experience. Even a lot of jobs, even to go to do insurance research or whatever, they have to have experience, especially acute care experience.
And I appreciate your concern, President Trujillo, and let me comment on that. So I developed an advisory board from the community, including Kaiser CNO, Stanford CNO, and Jen Watson is on our board of advisory. And we're working on a program called Practice Ready Nurse, where we have engaged the employers to come in and interview our students while they are in year 3. So that way we can work with the employer, and I'm copying the law school model where students can be interviewed while they're still students. We can do the final courses at the clinical partners of choice that they chose to hire these students before even taking the state board. And we have working with Kaiser and some other partners on this model. And actually, Kaiser Permanente have hired many new grads in multiple regions because they have the residency program. But we're working on developing what we call the practice ready nurse model. And that's something that I have an 11 members advisory board, including a nursing theorist like Jean Watson, CNOs from multiple hospitals, because I agree with you. We need to bridge the gap. We cannot let these people go out and not find a job. But
Yes.
and what we do with that, as Ms. Imelda mentioned, we work with home health, community health, prison, outpatient, ambulatory care, all the variety of clinical placement. But I am proud to say that this practice-ready model will help because these clinical partners will come and meet with my students in year 3 and interview, and they will support and actually fund some of their education, because as soon as they graduate, they will, as soon as they take the board, they want to bring them in because it's within their agreement. And that's how we change the mentality. I don't hire new grad. We have to shift that. Actually, that's one of the reports that from UCSF came about talking to the employer. You need to shift your way of thinking. You should start accepting new grads. That's your only way you can save yourself and continue providing care, is to work with academic partners and come together and develop a model to bridge this gap and have our graduates hire as they become licensed. And we have done this model in multiple states, and it's working really well, other states. And at this time, we're in the final agreements with the clinical partners who are going to use that as a way to start hiring new grads. And I would say Kaiser is already hiring new grad. They're using the residency program they have in Fremont and other areas, and it's working well. But I appreciate your concern. I agree with you. I'm a nurse myself, and I want everybody who graduates from our program to find a job, to be able to bring food to the table and pay any loans or anything. So we help them. We have a large department of career services. That's their full-time job, is to find a job for the graduate. It is required from us by accreditation to find a job for our graduates. And we do that, and we are CCNE accredited, and we have to report that to CCNE in addition to institutional accreditation. So when we factor a number of graduates, our enrollment, we do factor all these items, because otherwise the program will not really survive. If we can't place, the CCNE will stop the program, or the institutional accreditation will stop the program if we cannot place our students within a certain time of graduation. That's why we start with them on placement from day one. From semester 1, we talk to them about practice-ready model. Thank you.
Yeah, they come out with these
This
large
is Lori.
student loans. Yeah,
Real
Lori.
quick, Dolores, I just wanted to make a point of clarification. He mentioned that CCNE would stop them. That is incorrect. CCNE is an accrediting agency. All that CCNE can do is remove accreditation. The BRN is the one that has the approval, and the BRN is the one that can close programs or allow for opening of programs. So just a item of clarification there. Additionally, I do have a question. The practice ready nurse, is that part of your pre-licensure nursing program, or is that post graduation?
It's not a curriculum in the program. It's a service, as a career service we provide to our students and to our clinical partners. So it's not a curriculum. And to correct the other statement, the institutional accreditation, we are ACCSC accredited as a school, and we are required to place the students and meet a benchmark. And if we don't, the ACCSC can stop the enrollment of the program, similar to the Board of Nursing.
Yes, that is correct. But you had mentioned CCNE, so I wanted to make that
Probably picked up,
clarification.
apologize. But I meant accreditation, institutional accreditation mandate on us placing the students. Thank you, Loretta.
So do you have your job placement numbers? How many of your students have jobs coming out? Because they all have these huge student loans.
Yes, I can pull the data. I don't have it handy with me, but I can have someone send it to me. But we do every year, we meet the benchmark of and exceed the benchmark of placing our graduates at all our campuses, including Fremont. Of course, Sacramento is a proposed campus. So, but Fremont, Bakersfield, other campuses, especially Fremont, because it's the oldest campus we have since 12 years ago. And every time, that's why even Sacramento for the VN, as Stephanie mentioned, we received a distinguished award for placement and for student satisfaction. So Sacramento is our, the largest vocational nursing program we have. And when we were visited by ACCSC, we were given the award of distinguished school based on our placement pass rate, because we have a 95, 93% pass rate, as well as student satisfaction. And we have a below 10% default rate. So we teach nursing, pure nursing. We're focused on nursing, VN nursing and BSN nursing, because we believe in that. Our graduates, they work, they pay the loan, and they come back and take, because 80% of our BSN students in Fremont are our VN grads. And when they come to us, we give them a scholarship because they came back and enrolled in our BSN. So, and we encourage them to working on becoming an RN while they are in the VN program. And we talk to them about that and let them know that they can do an LVN, work for a couple of years, and come to the BSN and become an RN, and then advance their degree. And we support them to go to a higher level with other schools who has a nurse practitioner or a master's in nursing programs. We also have our sister school in Utah. We provide a master's in nursing education, and we offer that for our faculty with zero tuition to support our faculty. So the faculty we have who has a bachelor in nursing, we let them enroll in our sister school out of Utah, Eagle Gate, and they get a master's in nursing education with zero tuition, because we support our faculty as well as we support our students.
Dr. Yosef, this is Marianne. Would you be able to tell us what the benchmark is? You said the career placement, they have a benchmark for you guys. What is the benchmark?
So 2021, I just got the note, sorry. 2021 is 84% placement. That's our goal. The benchmark is 70, but we have 84 from ACCSC, which is placing our nursing graduates to a job within a short time, by the way. Like people will get a job later on, but we have to place them and get verification of placement from the employer, a signed letter saying this nurse graduate working for them for not just like they have to work for a certain time. Then we receive letter. I don't have all the data because that's not my specialty.
Oh, no, it's okay. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't quite sure. I didn't even have a shot in the dark as to what the benchmark would be. So thank you.
Yeah, 84% is our placement.
What you have, and 70 is the benchmark. Perfect.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marianne. I was going to ask that, and I appreciate you asking it.
All right, any other comments or questions from the board? Does anybody want to make a motion?
Accepted. Looks like there's several thousand openings in the area that we just talked about, in the Sacramento area. And they're not going to get all nurses into those jobs that are with a lot of experience, so the jobs wouldn't be open.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of jobs in this area. The problem is they all ask for experience. Is there a second?
Was that to approve?
I
What was the
believe-
motion?
Yes, the motion was to approve.
I will second that motion.
Okay. BRN moderator, can we open it up for public comment?
Comment, but I failed to hear it since there's people talking.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think you're right. There is a lot of openings. The majority, if not all of them, ask for experience. Even to go to ambulatory surgery or clinic, they all want acute care experience.
Well, what they want and what they can get, a lot of times two different things. If there's so many openings, they're not getting the ones that have the experience.
So what they're doing is they're using travelers. So let's open it up for public comment.
Mark, I'm not sure if you're on mute.
We are not able to hear you. Are you opening up to public comment? Are you able to unmute?
See him. Here he is. Yeah, he's on mute.
I'm getting some notice from some board staff that they may be having some technical difficulties. There you are. Thank you. Mark, we heard you say hello. We haven't heard anything else. We do need him to be the one to open up to public comment. He controls the entire WebEx and has to open up the Q&A section. So we cannot advance forward without him.
I have a comment.
Absolutely.
So I'm not sure if things changed, but I know that, and I appreciate all the questions. And
Are you all still there?
The hard questions, but in the past, at the committee level is when a lot of this information was being asked and presented. So usually the committee would come back to the general membership and make a recommendation. Are we doing things backwards?
No, we're not doing anything backwards. Sorry about that, Imelda. I'll help explain. So 11 enrollment increases were brought to the last Education Licensing Committee meeting. And yesterday, you guys voted through 6 of those recommendations because the committee was able to make a clear recommendation of support on 6. These 5, the committee specifically, there's what Mary Fagan said that she really felt uncomfortable approving them without it going to the board and getting more information. So the request was from the committee that these 5, and these were the only 5 out of the 11 that did not have clear enough evidence for them to make a really evidence-based decision. The ask was to bring it to the full board for additional discussion. And so they deferred making any recommendation and any action, and they've asked for it to be shared at the full board just to have these conversations. The committee felt uncomfortable making a decision on their own.
Yeah, thank you for the reminder. I do remember now, but thank you. So that was my question. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And then just so that you guys know, as we're waiting for Mark to come back on, I have amazing numbers to report out. We are coming up for our sunset hearing on the 30th. We will be approving the sunset report, and then the sunset hearing again will happen next year. And by looking at the data before we came into today, we had approved 999 new student spots just in this year alone. And then with these 11 enrollment increases, all 11 of them were approved by our board during this 2-day meeting, and we will be able to add to those numbers. That really kind of goes to show to our board that even though we've had the ability to decrease enrollments, stop enrollments, not approve programs, that our board has approved every single campus request, every single enrollment request, and every single new school request that has come in front of it in the past few years. So our board is not denying enrollments. They're not denying new campuses, and they are not denying any new programs. And that goes to speak to the fact that our board is hearing the call of the shortage in the regions are affected, and our board is being incredibly responsive. So I thank you for that. To date, we have not denied any enrollment increases, including the 11 that came in front of our board this fall.
That's very positive going before the sunset hearing meeting.
Mark, are you able to go to public comment?
I am. That was very interesting. Can everybody hear me? Okay.
Yes,
All right. We will be opening for public comment now. I will be activating the question and answer feature. Please refer to the screen share for members of the public to see how they should type in their request for comment. I've activated the question and answer feature. Members of the public can indicate that they would like to make a comment by typing into the question box, "I would like to make a comment." Please remember, you will have 2 minutes to make your comments. I will not give a reminder as your time approaches. I do not want to interrupt you nor cause you to lose your train of thought. I will mute your microphone and inform you that your time has expired, and we'll move on to the next member of the public. I'll pause for a moment for members.
Are you guys still able to hear board moderator? I have lost audio. This is Lori.
I lost him too. This is Jovita.
Yeah, he's gone.
Okay, I lost him after. I will pause for a moment to allow his normal speech. So I lost him again. We'll give him just a few more minutes to see if he can work out this kinks. If not, I would be willing to, we have a first and a second. And it may behoove us at this point, if we're not able to get this fixed in the next few minutes, to go to lunch and then have him work out the IT, go out to public comment and take votes when we come back. But I do want to give him a few minutes.
That's fine with me, Lori.
Yeah, without the moderator and without the public interaction, we cannot move forward on our agenda. Imelda, were you speaking? I heard something, but then it wasn't.
Yeah, so you said you want to go to break till he figures out what's going on. So what time do we report back?
We are giving him a few minutes to try back. We'll probably give him till 12:50. If he is not back in by 12:50, which is 3 minutes, then I will let our board president decide what the break will be.
Sorry about that. I have no clue what is going on.
That's okay. We'll try it again, Mark.
Randy Azevedo would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Randy. Randy, go ahead. Okay, we'll come back to Randy. Kayla Kinsman would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead, Kayla.
Hi, Kayla Kinsman here. I'm the interim director of nursing at Heritage Oaks Hospital here in Sacramento. We're an acute psychiatric facility with an affiliation with Unitech to provide clinical placements for their Sacramento campus if they are approved. And I strongly support the increase of the BSN programs for this area We definitely have a increase of vacancies that we're seeing in the communities. And I did want to make a note that we definitely interview students while they are awaiting their NCLEX and their NCLEX results. We do often take new grads as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Kayla. Joellen Sutterfield would like to make a comment. 1 second, please. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Joellen Sutterfield. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead. Oh, we lost her. Hold on. Go ahead. Go ahead. I'll come back to you, Joellen. Randy, let me see. Randy, are you?
I think Randy's waiting. Can you hear me again?
Hello. There you are.
Hi,
Okay.
can you hear me?
I have both of you now. Who would like to go first? I'm sorry.
Let Randy go first. I'll let Randy.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead. Mute. Go ahead. Randy, go ahead. All right, we lost both of them. Hold on here. Go ahead, Randy. Randy or Joellen? There.
Can you hear me?
Oh, no, I can hear you both. So it looks like you have to, looks like for whatever reason, you both have to be unmuted at the same time. So Randy, if you
That's
want to
good,
go
sir.
first, go
Randy
ahead.
can go.
Okay, can you hear?
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Super. Hi, my name is Randy Azevedo. I'm the nurse educator here at Sutter Tracy Community Hospital in Tracy, California. We're a small hospital, 77 beds, and we are definitely in favor of the Unitech campus. We're struggling drastically for nurses. We have 27 positions open today, which we cannot fill. I heard comments about not taking new grads and stuff, and I can tell you that we are taking new grads. We are taking new grads in every department. We have hired 1.6 FTE nurse educators just to do that, take new grads, bring them in, and get them prepared to work in our facilities. Sutter Health itself is doing that as well through our Sutter Health University, which has a variety of cohorts for nurses to come on board. I do know there's been discussions about nursing in California. I have been a nurse, I hate to admit it, but 44 years. And this is not my first rodeo. And this is probably the worst I've ever seen it, where we cannot get nurses to come in, that we have positions open and people are just not applying. Even if they don't have the qualifications, they're not applying. So again, I am fully behind this program. I would love to have them come here as my clinical site, which I've already signed up for, and I hope you'll consider that. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Joellen Sutterfield would like to make a comment. Go ahead, Joellen.
I will keep mine very brief. I'm the Vice President of Clinical Education Management for Unitech College, and I'm so I'm so glad that you've graciously heard our provost, our dean, our students, our 56 partners, the evidence that there's no clinical displacement, and some that were able to make public comment. We have diligently followed all of the steps, but what I really am here to do is just to give the heart and thanks for this board and for our partners. I mean, I can tell you that we work closely with the consortiums. We partner with all of the schools as well. We're a respected member within the collaborative. And I'd like to add my appreciation for hearing this heartfelt cry. So many of our hospitals are not able to meet patients, and that makes my own heart cry. I believe in that song by, Miss Day that says we need to rise up. We need to rise up and meet today. I love some of the board comments of, yes, we can make it better tomorrow. And I appreciate that too. But I also appreciate that together, we're going to rise up and meet this need today. And that's really all I have to say is that my heart bleeds for this. I love our academic and clinical partners and respect you all. And I'm happy that we're going to rise up and meet this need today.
Thank you. Board President, there are no other public requests for comment. Would you like me to close this window? Oh, uh-oh, can you not hear me now?
No, we hear you.
Oh, okay. Did you say yes?
She didn't. She's still trying to get off of mute, I
Oh.
think.
Yes, thank you.
There we go. Thank you.
I think I just need a break. So can we restate the motion again, please?
Sure. So the motion is to accept changes to an approved program of substantial change for Unitech College Baccalaureate Degree Nursing Program in addition of a new campus or location in Sacramento.
All right. Take it to a vote. Dolores Trujillo votes yes. Jovita Dominguez?
Votes yes.
Susan Naranjo?
Susan votes yes.
Betty? And Imelda. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you, President. Thank you, board member. I appreciate you. Thank you, Dr. McCarthy.
So we're going to lunch, correct, Lori?
It is 1 o'clock. My staff would love to take a lunch break. Yes.
Would I? Do you want to go to 1:30 or 1:45?
We have a very full agenda. Although I would love to have a longer break, I know that we still have to get through our Enforcement Intervention Committee and Ledge Committee. Those should be fairly quick. However, we will go into discussing 9.6, which has 2 different discussion points within that about the regulation 1426.
Okay, so you want to go to
it's up to you.
1:30? We can go to 1:30.
Okay, so we'll return at 1:30.
Yes.
Lori, I'm sorry. This is Marianne. Do we need to do anything with 9.4 or 9.5?
9.4 and 9.5 are information only. They're in the meeting materials, and we will not be doing any presentation on those. So
Perfect.
those,
I just didn't want it to look like we were skipping it. So thank you.
Nope, we won't. We'll open it up to public comment for anything on them when we return. But that would be it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. See you at 1:30.